Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you here to the second race of the season, Season 2 of the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Coming off of a rather raucous finish at Daytona International Speedway last week, we are here tonight, still in Florida, but a little further south as these drivers get ready for 175 laps at the Homestead Miami Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Scott Rankin. And Scott, last week at Daytona, yes, you have to position yourself, you have to be up there at the end, but it's a little bit difficult to control your own destiny at a super speedway. Here tonight at the mile and a half might be a little bit more of a different story.
Oh, look, you say that it's a little bit more difficult to control your own destiny at a super speedway. There's parts of that are correct and parts of that are incorrect, but this is a driver's track. You can't get around here. You can't get the car to the front of the field unless you're really putting that effort in. You had to have practiced. You need to know what it's like to get that car down on pit road nice and cleanly. You need to know where your limits are. And, well, I'll tell you what, the best part about mile and a half, you never know who's going to win them.
And Team Sim Racing Development, they have been on it so far this season as far as their qualifying program, a perfect 2 for 2 in capturing the pole. Last week, it was Brian Cybery who had the pole at Daytona, and Alex Link starts on point here for this one at Homestead. Now, we were told pre-race that this is going to be very abrasive on the tires, projected about 30 to 35 laps you can make it on a run. With that being said, what do you think? Track position going to be that important here today, or do you think that there's enough multi-grooves to be able to use here that starting mid-pack rear of the field isn't really going to hinder these drivers?
It's definitely one of those tracks where overtaking, I think, is probably a little bit easier. You can really show your skill, in terms of how you get by other people, for sure. But track position's still important. You do not want to be right behind that wreck when it happens. You want to be well out in front. You want to be well out and clear of it. So qualifying is important. Maintaining a little bit of track position might come in handy, but at the same time, you don't want to go racing people early. If you're up to those stage points, sure, get up there, get it on, but you've also got to look after that car. You want to be at the back end of the race with the best possible machinery that you can get.
Are on the move early, going to be the 14 of Spencer Hardison. He's going to look to the inside of the 22 of Gary Peck. Woo, got a little loose there going into turn 3. Pushed up the track a bit, and we do have our first caution already. I believe that is last week's winner, Derek Schilling, involved, along with Mike Tellier, Dennis Nicole, Lane Woodruff, Nick King amongst those drivers. Derek Schilling, who started off the season with a victory, locked up a playoff spot, involved in the first caution of the night here at Homestead.
Oh, tough break for him. New season, it's all to play for in these early weeks. You've really got to put yourself up there, got to start making sure that you're getting the points on the board that you need to. So, tough break for him. Hopefully he'll fight his way back, and we'll see him again soon.
He was already in trouble before he even got into turn 3. That car spinning sideways, losing that momentum, and nothing that the 43 of Nick King could do as he got into his left rear quarter panel, spinning him around. You saw the 77, the 97, the 11, all spinning into the vicinity. We're going to go on board here, the roof cam of the 43 of Nick King, just to show how difficult it was for him to back off of that out of shape number 69 in front of him.
Yeah, look at that. Unfortunately, that's racing sometimes. You got to settle yourself in. You got to find out what the guys around you really want to do, and it's difficult. You've just got to work yourself into that groove. So those guys will question what they can do right. That's the thing about racing, right? Don't take this sort of stuff too seriously. Don't do that. Make sure that you settle yourself in. You learn what you can from it, and you take away what you can from it. So unfortunately for these guys, they've made a few mistakes. All right, no worries. Let's settle down. Let's get ourselves back in the groove, and let's see what we can create.
And obviously in this league, you get damaged, you're going to have to ride it out for the remainder of this race. 175 laps, a little over 260 miles here tonight, and several drivers already sustaining damage before we even got to the completion of lap number 1. There you see contact there between, that was Braxton DeWeese in the 3. He gets into Mike Tellier, spinning him up the track. There's the 51 of Evan Coleman. He's going through the grass. A number of drivers collected up in this one, and we saw last week the after effects of drivers getting involved in early wrecks. Obviously, not able to really utilize the draft quite as well when you have a damaged race car than if you had a car that's in great shape. But what about here today at Homestead? Can a damaged race car still be competitive?
Look, I mean, if you can really look after your car, if you can really look after your tires, it's tough, but it's doable. It's not like Daytona where, you know, as soon as you're down that aero package, you're just gonna fall off the back end of the field. Forget about it. Go pack the car up, put it on the trailer, and go home. It's different, you know. These guys are gonna have a long uphill battle. Can they do it? First questions they need to ask themselves is how much repairs they have, how much I can get of this fixed back up, then let's sort of see what we can do with this race car. It's going to be a long night. Lanes are going to change when that rubber starts to get thrown down, so if they're smart, they use their head. There is the ability to get back in there, but long night ahead of them.
Derek Schilling still sits on pit road getting damage repaired to his machine, thanking his lucky stars. He had that win last week at Daytona to lock him into the playoffs. As Alex Link's going to be getting us back underway. Gary Peck, Spencer Hardison, David Duran, and Travis Daly. That's going to be the top 5 as the green flag set to come back out. And these drivers are racing, of course, with stages here tonight. And with that caution coming out, right around the area where these drivers would be able to make it to the green and white checkered flag at the completion of lap 40, we did have some drivers roll the dice and come down pit road to top off the fuel tank, including last week's runner-up, Robert F. Kenney, in that 34 car.
Good job by him. So, you know, well, look, having that extra couple laps in the tank gives you options. It really does. The only thing, like we were just talking about, is that track position. I mean, you've got to adjust it, right? You didn't quite get in there in terms of where you wanted to be. But hey, maybe he was already far down the field. Maybe he had an option to go in, get that top off, and see what he create out of it. So who knows?
A battle back here. That's actually a car falling back. Is making his debut tonight, the number 9 of Edward Cookersberger. As looks like he might be actually moving out of the way of some of these other drivers, trying not to be a hindrance. It's actually bringing that thing down onto the apron of turn 3. Might be actually coming to pit road in that MRN Chevrolet.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. That says to me a penalty. So he's picked up a penalty at some point. He's going to have to come down and get that black flag cleared. Well, long night ahead of us. There is 175 laps, a lot of opportunities to get the laps back. We do have stage breaks at 40 and 80. So, rough early, take your beats, just work on it, see what you can do.
Greenway Battle for the 4th position. 24 of David Duran on the top side, Travis Daly on the inside, and then the number 54 of Tom Bourne entering into the vicinity there right now in 6th place. Tom Bourne was one of the drivers that was in the hunt off turn 4 to win last week at Daytona, but in that really incredible finish, a driver that was 8th coming around to receive the white flag made it through all of the wreckage to be able to win in the form of Derek Schilling. Tom Bourne, however, he is the points leader coming into tonight. We talked about the fact we got stage breaks here today, and stage points very, very important in terms of where you're going to be positioned in points, because Tom Bourne, he ended up finishing 3rd place last week at Daytona, but because he picked up 18 bonus points off of top 5 finishes in those 2 stages at Daytona, comes into this race. Points leader, currently 3 points over his teammate Robert Kenney.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, anything you stick in the book, it's always going to be an advantage, but look, for Schilling, my money's on Schilling early. You know, now he's got that out of the way, right? So this is how you set yourself up for a championship. You've locked yourself into those playoffs. Okay, what's your next step? Now, you sit around the back of the pack for a few races. You sort of feel everyone out. You want to really basically take your time racing around every single car in the field. Because if you can build that mental map, and you can start putting the picture together of what the traffic's going to be like, at the back end of the season, you're going to have so much more information than everyone else. Yeah, you want to go out there and win every single week. Yeah, who doesn't want to do that? Make sure that you get yourself to the playoff with as much information as you possibly can. Hey, maybe it's time to grab a teammate and push them to victory and end up with multiple team members in the playoffs. We saw that last season, and, well, for the last round of the championship, the final 4 was 3 drivers from one team, 1 driver from another team, and it ended up after half a turn, it was down to just 2. So who knows? That could happen in Schilling's favor this time around.
Yeah, and another thing that actually is an advantage to Schilling, as well as whoever wins here tonight and next week at Las Vegas, is the fourth race of the season is at Phoenix. And that's where the season finale is held as well. So it gives you the opportunity, if you know you're already locked into the playoffs, to kind of go outside the box in terms of strategy when we go to the first time around at Phoenix to think, if the championship were on the line right now and I was going up against some of these other guys that have won early on in the season, how would I stack up to them?
Yeah, and the thing about that Phoenix round, especially when it comes in later on in the thick of things as well, is you want to get yourself out early. Try a different car setup. Try that different strategy. Throw something. Would you normally not take as much risk with the car setup? Okay, well, let's throw a riskier setup on. Let's drive a car that's a little bit looser. How does it feel on the long run? How does my tires feel? How does the car wear? How does the track feel with this? So you have that information, and then later on you can sit down and go, that was just a little bit too far for my liking. I want to play it a little bit safer than that when it comes back time for the Final Four. So grab that information, set yourself up for a championship. You've got a great opportunity to do it, and I really like when you see championship races like that happen early in the season. You get an idea, you get a feel for things, and then you get to come back and do it all again and see who improved. That's the real winner's circle, guys, for me, is the guys that take that information early in the season and improve on it.
Absolutely. Looking here at a battle for 5th place. Tom Bourne encountering a little bit of difficulty when he came up on the 77 of Blaine Woodruff. That brings Dylan Stipe and Travis Daly onto his back door. Stipe just got around Daly for the 6th position a couple of laps ago, as we saw, and now goes to work on cracking the top 5. Of course, Dylan Stipe, last year's runner-up for the championship. And if we go a little bit further back, we've got another good battle going on. That is Bob Carroll in the 27, trying to hold off the 51 of Evan Coleman. We mentioned the fact that a number of drivers wrecked on the final lap in the final 2 corners last week at Daytona. Bob Carroll, on the other hand, he ended up running out of fuel on the final lap going into turn 3. So the 27 is looking for a little bit of redemption this week.
Yeah, hey, look, I mean, if I was in the 27 shoes and I was wrecked out last week with the wind just in sight, of course I'm going to want to go out there and go for it, race hard, see what I can get done.
Oh, gracious, we stacked up there on the top side. Evan Coleman, Shane Tyrion, and Austin Greatorex all stuck on the top line behind the slower 77. That was nearly a wreck going into turn 1.
Oh boy! Lap traffic. I mean, those guys, they're trying to do their best. They're trying to stay clean. They're trying to still run their race because still going to grab points whenever and wherever you can. So
that incident there in turn 1, that was actually really important too, because we were focused on the 30 of Shane Tyrion because he was the one that had been running the highest of those that came down under that first caution to top off the fuel tank, because he was caught up in that outside line. That now puts the number 10 of Alonso Chicano up the highest of the drivers that topped off. So if we do go green for the remainder of this stage, there is every possibility that this 10 car could be the race leader and the stage winner when all is said and done.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're early in the, we're coming right up on the halfway through this stage, so anything really could happen from here. We could just gotta keep an eye out, start picking on these sorts of things, see what's happening. But keep your eyes forward, keep your eyes up, keep your eyes high, keep your eyes low. I mean, right now, these drivers are just trying to settle in, lay that rubber down, get themselves settled, make sure that they're comfortable in the car and that they can push for it.
Looks like the number 9 of Edward Kuckersberger is actually going to be the first driver out of today's event, as he's taking his car back behind the wall. Will finish in the 31st position. Great run here early on for the pole sitter, Alex Link. Of course, we documented the fact that Sim Racing Development now 2 for 2 in sitting on the pole positions this season. But last week at Daytona, while they obviously had the good early speed, not a whole lot went their way in that 3rd and final stage. We ended up seeing Alex Link and Brian Cybery all start in the front row. Cybery ended up finishing, I believe it was up inside of the top 5, making it through the carnage. I think it was Jeremy Bushi led us to the green at the start of stage 2, but we really didn't see them as a team up there at the front in the closing stages. So we'll see if maybe here at Homestead they'll be able to get something going. Right now you've got Link leading this race, and you've got Bushi right now running in the 6th position of that team.
Yeah, look, hey, again, early stages, let's just sort of see what they can run. I mean, We did sort of see it with the Cup race earlier today. You know, Denny Hamlin come up and crossed over. Was it Keselowski that he messed with? I think it was in the early stages of that race, right at the back end of stage 1, I think it was. So look, teammates working together. Not so much going to happen here at these style of tracks with the low downforce package with multi-groove style racing. It's a little bit more difficult. Everyone's trying to fight for that little bit of track position, and you don't really need that team working together as hard as you do as a circuit like Daytona. So I think there'd be a lot more free reign for the guys to race each other a little bit harder. Yeah, sure, maybe if you get down and the move is going to be done, so go ahead for it, see what you can get done. But other than that, it's going to be look after everyone, see where you can set yourselves up.
And a wad of cars right here, and this is kind of an interesting foursome because you've got the 12, that is Justin Belmonte out of NSM Wraps. He's side by side with Travis Daly out of NSM. Behind them, Brandon King out of NSM Photos, and then behind them, you got the 23 of Deshaun Gorin out of NSM. So obviously all of these guys in some way affiliated, but to your point, even if you're a teammate, racing with a teammate, you're still going to race hard, and these guys have been side by side for the last 3-4 laps or so.
Okay, so this is where the teammate strategy sort of starts to come in. At this point, I'd be saying to these guys, hey, look, you know, we're side by side. We're wearing each other's tires out. This isn't what we want. This is where using a little bit of head and using your teammate. If I'm on the outside line, maybe I'm just going to let the guy in front of me up. Maybe he's going to start running better lap times. He's not going to start burning his tires up as much. Now the 89 is going to look to slide on by from Brandon King, so he's going to get by, I believe that was Travis Daly. So, you know, if they're not working together, they're working against each other. That works for a time, but that time is maybe 1-2 laps. Anything longer than that, and you're starting to really not help each other, and you don't want to be tripping over each other this early.
Right now, depending on what kind of a pace in these final 16 or so laps of this first stage that Alex Link is able to put down, Bronson Stafford currently sits in the free pass position. First car 1 lap down in 27th place. And I mentioned about the importance of stage points. Well, I mean, last week, just a case in point, Bronson Stafford finished 23rd in the Daytona race, but because he finished with a stage win and 4th in the other stage, he comes into this race 6th in the point standings. So big opportunity lost here. The damage early sustained on that Cineplex Toyota, that he's not going to be able to get some stage points here, as obviously he will not be finishing up inside of the top 10. But who knows, if they can get this thing repaired enough and he can get the lucky dog under this next caution, might not have heard the last of Bronson Stafford here this evening.
Yeah, it's very often that you see Bronson Stafford back in the pack like this. It doesn't happen, you know. He's normally one of those drivers that's so clean, that's so consistent. My money's still on him. I think he's still got enough pace to get himself back to the lead at some point. He just needs time, and unfortunately for him, that means he's going to bide his time. He's got to get as much of this damage repaired as soon as he possibly can. The end of this stage, I think, right now, he's taking a read on that car for sure. He's just trying to get some intel. How's it handling? Do I need to get this damage fixed? What's the engine running like? Do I need to take some tape off? You know, so he's just going to be reading and feeling the car out, feeling the track out right now, because obviously now he's got a compromised machine. Got to make a couple little adjustments as a driver.
This is still a battle just outside of the top 10 as the 3 of Braxton Deweese has joined this group. He's in 11th with Chicano, Daly, and Cybery all in this group. So 11th back through 14th place, all battling side by side. And it's actually been where the wad of cars really has been the entirety since we went back green, restarting here in stage 1, of where really the great battling has been going on. They've gotten themselves rather spread out up amongst the top 10. Closest battle up there would be for the 4th position. David Duran looks like he may have a car set up for the short run because he's falling back into the clutches now of Jeremy Bushi.
Look, David Duran, I mean, he normally is. We saw over at the very back end of the season, last season, and specifically in the championship race. He was very quick early. I can't recall who it was that was fighting. I remember it was Stipe, that he was his teammate. He was trying to sort of get up there and harass the leader for victory, and Duran just, very quick on the short run, then fall back through the pace. So it's pretty consistent with him. obviously that's sort of his style of strategy. He wants to get up there, get some track position early. Caution-filled races really suit a guy like David Duran, but unfortunately when you get green running like this, he's got to make some compromises.
Duran up on that outside line, opening up the door for Jeremy Bushi to try and get by. Of course, that would be a stage point picked up by the 73 if he's able to complete the pass. Not able to do it right there. And, you know, you talked about a similarity of tonight's race to the NASCAR Cup race that took place earlier on today. And one thing I got to wonder, you know, as this race continues on, we're going to start settling into the mid to late afternoon, maybe even into the early evening. The track temp's going to start going down, and we know that that outside line, when the track temps start getting cooler, is going to start gaining more and more grip and more speed. Are we going to start to see these drivers venture up there, and how soon until we see that?
Racing's starting to get a little bit tighter. What are we, 9 laps to the end of the stage now, so eyes are all going to be on towards that. Great lead, actually, looking by the 71. So, perfectly honest, Alex has done a great job. He got that car out in front early. He's just run his own race. And everyone behind him, Spencer, Gary, Jeremy, like, look at all these guys. This is a lot of new names to the league. Some of these guys I haven't really seen before. So, to not only come here, one of the first or second races of the league, and put on such a strong performance, Stipe is going to be under pressure. Duran's under pressure. You know, all of these guys are starting to having to put their hands up and say, hey, I actually need to perform now.
And a quick look here, I do believe, as we're focused on the 54 of Tom Bourne trying to get around Ryan Seiberry for 11th and trying to move into the top 10. If Tom Bourne can actually get up here into the top 10, I believe he'll be the only driver so far this season to have finished inside of the top 10 in the first 3 stages. But he's got a gaggle of cars he's still got to get around before he actually cracks into the top 10. Actually, correction, he just now cracked the top 10 because we got some drivers that have now hit pit road. The 24 of David Duran, the 4 of Dylan Stipe, and the 17 of Tristan Mayer. These are regularly scheduled stops, drivers that stayed out under our first and only caution up to this point.
That was the other thing that I didn't really consider. You know, the spanner in the works. The fuel mileage is just shy of making it the full stage length, so it's going to force a stop in this stage. Next stage, if they can fuel save, they should be good to go. So it's going to force a little bit of fuel management. The guys that did pit under the caution, they're good. If they saved, and with the way that the pace is dropping off here, there's potential that they can make it to the end. So this stage hasn't given us everything we've got yet. The guys that are pitting now, they're going to take a couple tires. Why? Because they're going to have to take nearly a full load of fuel. They want to get out there on that fresh rubber and see if they can shake and bake, baby, and make something happen.
As Alex Link continues to lead, he's one of those drivers that will have to come to pit road before this stage is complete, unless he's been able to save about 5 laps of fuel. Right now, we're looking at the battle for the 7th position between Chicano and Seiberry, but more important, these are 2 drivers that were on pit road under that yellow, so this could potentially be the battle for the stage win.
I tell you what, David Duran's popped out right around Tom Bourne as well, so that one, Bourne is not going to want to give that up willingly. He will have to eventually, because Duran has obviously got the fuel to make it now to the end. But that's an interesting one for him. Duran would want a little bit easier track and a little bit of an easier opponent to get around, and he's not going to get it.
Interesting thing here, too, that we're going to have to follow up on. If indeed someone is able to stretch it the remainder of this stage on fuel, we're going to have a lot of drivers a lap down. There's going to be a lot of wave arounds that are going to take place when we get to the pacing between stages 1 and 2. As, close there as the 10 of Chicano able to clear himself in front of Deshaun Gorham. We've only had one other driver hit pit road so far. That was the 43 of Nick King.
So something else to consider is if they do make it to the end of the stage, they are going to be coughing and spluttering to get over that line. That's how close they're going to be on fuel. So for them to end the stage like that, then have to make it back around to pit road, could cause a little bit of chaos. Keep your eyes peeled for that.
Well, the pace has definitely backed off since we went green. Most of these drivers were running in the mid to low 31s, as now Spencer Hardison in the 14 is hitting pit road. Right now, your race leader Alex Link last time by ran nearly 2.5 seconds slower than his fastest lap at a 33.4. So the pace has definitely backed off. which might actually help these drivers a little bit as far as saving fuel.
Well, something else I'm just keeping an eye on, Stipe and David Duran are right near each other on trap. Duran is only just ahead of Stipe, so whether or not Stipe will get by him, it would be an interesting one to keep watch. Duran's going to run the high line this time around, so they are running very, very similar lap times. Stipe pitted he pitted on the exact same lap as David Duran, but his pit stop was 5 seconds slower than Duran's. He's caught him and got by him. What that says to me is Duran didn't take tires, and Stipe took right sides.
And now Stipe's going to fall behind Spencer Hardison for the lucky dog position, as Hardison has returned back to the track about half of a straightaway ahead of that 4 machine. And here comes the 71, Alex Link, the race leader, to pit road.
Well, this changes things up, doesn't it? It's not going to be nice and easy for him. He's going to have to cruise on in nice and easily, see where he gets up to, and see where he comes out as well.
Who I think the 22 may have wanted to come to pit road, but he missed it, and he is slow going into 1 and 2. Gary Peck looks like he might be running out of fuel. Jeremy Bouchy is the one that's going to be leading back around. A couple of cars sputtering there on this final lap of the first stage.
Yeah, that 22, he is bone dry. There is no fuel left in that thing. Man, what an exciting end to stage 1. A little bit of distance dramas for the fuel guys. Just sort of excites things up, doesn't it? But there's going to be a few guys that pitted early, and they managed to get away with it. I'm looking at Bouchy. He's done a great job managing his fuel. He's going to nab himself a stage win. Great job by him. I'm looking at Cybery. I'm looking at Chicano. I'm looking at Gorham. All of these guys that normally wouldn't be up here, these guys are jumping around and just grabbing some stage points. What a great result for these guys.
Yeah, and if you consider it as well, only 4 of our top 10 were drivers that pitted back on that second lap when we had our only caution. So that's 6 drivers that were able to make it a total of 40 laps on 1 tank of fuel. Yes, there were some pacing laps involved, but I mean, even to the case of what we just saw there with Peck sputtering on the back straightaway and a couple of drivers having to pit coming to the proverbial white of this stage, tremendous job of fuel saving. That's something they're going to have in the back of their mind if we go into a long green flag run in this third and final stage.
I'm just listening to Bouchy. I think his car was basically out of fuel. There is next to no engine sound coming out of that thing. So he was right on the limit there.
So Bouchy is going
I'm sure he's out.
I wouldn't be surprised. He looked like he was kind of slow and rather low coming out of 3 and 4, as if he didn't expect that thing was going to make it to the start-finish line.
So 27 ran out of fuel. So whole bunch of conversations that's actually going on in game right now. So what's happened is, because they're coming down to pit road and iRacing hands out those passing under yellow penalties if you actually enter pit lane ahead of somebody that was still on track, 27 ran out of fuel. 27 ran out of fuel. He's been given an end of line penalty because that's, obviously he's causing black flags for people. That's the best way to handle it. I think that's an appropriate penalty. I think that's, he's run out of fuel. He's pushed it a little bit too far, grabbed himself some stage points. That's the punishment. I think the punishment fits the crime. They're trying to get the black flag clears sort of all worked out at this point in time, but an exciting stage. You kind of can't say that we're expecting that one to finish quite the way it did.
And Tom Bourne is scored the lead, but he's actually going to come down pit road. I thought maybe he played pit strategy to perfection. I think he had stayed on the lead lap, came down pit road with 1 lap remaining in the first stage, but now he's going to surrender the race lead, come down, and probably take on some tires, since he, I think, only went with the fuel-only strategy on his last pit stop. So that will turn the race lead back over to the 73 of Jeremy Bouchy, who we are now going to see if we can get a word with him here, our Stage 1 winner. Hey, Jeremy, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, buddy, you got me?
We definitely do. Man, okay, it looked to us like you guys were super close on fuel, but we want to know just how close you were.
Actually, I was probably about a lap and a half to the good. I take it I was driving in a little bit too soft all through the run, and then I started clutching about 10 laps early, so I was good.
Great management, man. That's a phenomenal job. So early in the season, you've picked yourself up a stage victory and some stage points. How does that make you feel about the rest of it? You were running quite high up in the order, and then you still managed to save that amount of fuel. That's got to make you feel really good about how you're running today.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I got to thank SRD Setups, and I also got to thank my teammate Ryan Cyberry. I haven't had a lot of time to work on the car this week, and he did a good job setting me up with something good. So all thanks to him.
All right, well, Jeremy, we know that you got another 40-lap stint coming up here. We'll look forward to seeing if you can make it that 40 laps, but I want to talk about that third and final stage because that's going to be a longer one, and you were able to make it the full 40 laps here. The number we heard was about maybe 35 laps, the max you guys could make it. So let's say that this third and final stage goes into a long fuel run. What were you able to learn here in this first stage that you can maybe then apply to maybe pick up the win?
Honestly, I've got such a long run car. I hope the last stage goes green and just split it up into thirds and go, or split it up into two. I haven't done the math, but
That's what you got teammates for, right?
exactly. Make sure they're pulling their weight, even though I haven't pulled it this week.
All right, Jeremy, job well done. Stage 1 winner. We'll look to see if maybe you can sweep the 2 stages tonight, maybe bring this thing home. So we'll see if we'll talk to you later. We'll let you get right back at it.
Thank you right now.
So, yeah, a little bit of a surprise there. I mean, our data all wrong. We were told about 30 to 35 laps, and he was actually to the good on that 40-lap stint.
I mean, he did say that he was managing it. He was managing it quite aggressively as well. He said that he's driving it incredibly soft, and saving a lot of fuel using the clutch. Like, he didn't expect to be popping out that far in the lead. Everyone else around him, oh my god, look at the chaos on the restart though. Bush gets a great start. Jacob Grant got a great start as well, and the 33 is just sliding through the field in the wrong direction.
Ryan Cybery stuck in that middle line, and that's the one area. Oh, we got a spinner in the back. Someone's gotten hooked around. I think it was the 11 of Dennis Nicole, and I think the 15 of Travis Dowley might have been the one that got him. Caution is out, as that 11 has made a huge impact with the inside safer barrier.
Oh man, what an impact! That was not good whatsoever. I'm just trying to pick up who that was. Yeah, somebody's off way down there on the inside. I'm not seeing it. There was 11 and the 15 were the 2 cars that were involved. So I'm going to go back and see what I can work out for you.
Take a look here. This was on the back straightaway. And of course, they were 3 wide and 4 wide racing ahead. Oh, 15 got its left sides down there on the apron. And there's just no grip down there. Then he came up and collected up the 11, who I believe may have hit that 45-degree angle opening there, that little access area into the infield.
Tell you what it actually looks like. 15 just gets loose in the mid corner going through 1 and 2, so just cold tires, just trying to rejoin, doesn't recognize the space that's there, and just tags him. So unfortunately, it's a little bit of a racing incident. Not much you really can do. But both of those drivers, that's their days done, and they both ran so well in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, Travis Dowley was up inside of the top 10 for a good portion of that first stage, and Dennis Nickel had actually been able to keep himself on the lead lap, was running just outside of the top 15 at the end of the first stage. And to your point, especially for that 11 car, going to be very difficult for him to get back out there, let alone be competitive. His day more than likely over. This caution is going to be a break for the 17 of Tristan Mayer. He's going to be the driver back on the lead lap, as it'll give us 23 drivers on the lead lap of 30 that are still being scored out on the racing surface.
I'm going to be honest, I'm looking at Mayer's car as well. There's a slight little bit of rub on the left-hand side rear. And he's got a good opportunity to not only take this lucky dog, but get on the lead lap and start shaking it. Sorry, excuse me, shaking and baking. The other thing that this does is this now eliminates fuel strategy and fuel saving from this second stage. So drivers are going to get a lot more racy. The guy Boucher did a great job with his fuel saving in the first stage. Now he doesn't need to do that. Let's see what his pace is like when he's allowed to push the entire time.
And this is going to be interesting, too, because when we started this race, we started double file. When we had that early caution, we went to a single file restart, ran green for the remainder of that stage. We went double file here for the start of stage 2, early caution with them racing 3 and on occasion and through the field 4 wide. Be interesting to see if an admin call comes through to have another single file restart here.
Be interesting. I personally would prefer to see it. we've got a lot of cars in the field right now, and they've raced around each other clean for so long that look, the last restart, you mentioned it, we triggered that green flag period by being a single file restart, but give these guys another chance. That if we're gonna actually get to the back end of the season and have a good chance of getting multiple restarts happening and setting up long green flag runs, then these guys are gonna learn to race around each other from the get-go here. Otherwise, you're gonna see guys picking their preferred lane. The jump is going to be a lot more cleaner. I don't like it. It's not my preferred way to go racing. I love the double file restarts. Leave it with it. Let's see what we can handle. It's on the early days in the season. You know, it's not like it's going to ruin anyone's race right about now, and these guys are going to learn some lessons. So,
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, and not only that, but usually when we have the single file restarts, we tend to not necessarily see the multi-groove racing that Homestead is really known for. When they have the double file restarts, you're going to start to see the second and especially the third lane start to form, because all drivers are going to be trying to search for that clean air, trying to find a little bit of space where they can make a move on drivers in front of them. And going back to that wreck that we had right there, I mean, that was basically just a driver mistake, as you said, on cold tires down that inside line. Wasn't really drivers running each other out of room. So, they had 3 and 4 wide situations that they were actually getting through cleanly. So I would love to see them continue to have the double file restarts, but it looks like it will be a single file restart here with Bushi, Grant, Terrian, Belmonte, and Greatorex. That's going to be the top 5, followed by Matt Dyer, Brian Cybery, Deshaun Gorham, Braxton DeWeese, and Brandon King, the top 10. We do indeed have one another driver out of the race, as Dennis Nicole, his day is going to come to an end. Looks like he will be finishing in the 30th position, joining Edward Cookersberger in the garage area.
Yep, unlucky to those guys, but tell you what, now we've got a little bit of a condensed, slightly field. People would have learned their lessons. Single file restarts, who knows? Everyone's going to be lined up behind Bushi, so Bushi's going to need to sort of control things here. I want to see a really good restart from him. He got that first start underway very well. That's a bad start from him. I'm not sure if Jacob Graham jumped that one.
I don't necessarily think that was a bad start. I think he did that on purpose, did the 73, because he moved low when he crossed the start-finish line, as if he was getting out of the way of these drivers. Oh, we got a wreck in the back there. That is, I believe, the 71. Our pole sitter, Alex Link, has looped it around out of turn 2. No caution, however.
Yeah, no caution. I mean, he saved it. Gotta go back and have a look at this one. He just gets on the power too aggressively. Car gets unsettled on the corner exit. Gets just a little bit loose. It just starts to slide. Corrects it. He nearly saves it.
Of course, this is open setup. These drivers are able to make the adjustments that they want to their race cars. And let's not forget that prior to that restart at the start of the second stage, they hadn't had a restart since all the way back lap 5 at the beginning of this race. So the track conditions will definitely have changed. That setup's not going to feel the same way going into turn 1 at the start of a restart as it did earlier on in the race.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's driver adjustment. You've also got to, say, all right, am I pushing now? Am I saving? Am I trying to just keep a little bit of temperature in these tires, or am I trying to push and make a lot of space up? Now, honestly, when I'm looking at things from Alex King, it was Alex Link's side of things. Yeah, he's a long way back in the pack. I definitely think that the right option for him is to try and earn himself some track position right about now and go looking for that stage victory, because I think he's got it in him this time around when he doesn't have to fuel save, he doesn't have to worry about that pit stop. It's just all go. So I think he made the right call. Unfortunately, a little bit of a mistake. That's what happens when you push. You got to drive these cars right to the edge to be able to get the pace out of them, and sometimes you just cross that line.
Top 5 single file battle right now is for 6. Brandon King and Justin Belmonte. They settle it out, moving Belmonte back to 7th. Spencer Hardison now to the outside of Brian Cybery, and you got Braxton DeWeese and Tom Bourne in this vicinity as well. As the battle for the lead starting to close up a little bit there, Shane Tyrion, through the magic of teleportation, actually just picked up a victory less than 2 hours ago at Phoenix, and now he's over here on the East Coast trying to win at Homestead.
Yeah, congratulations to him. That was a really good job. Great job for him. And I mean, there's been a lot of racing action this weekend as well. So those guys who are racing on the road courses, it obviously was Bathurst 12-hour weekend. Love that being an Aussie. I'll tell you what, it's not easy to win on two sort of similar but different racetracks. I mean, they're very similar length, but the skills, the setup, and the way that things work, trying to be able to get the car around nice and quickly. Phoenix, you got to really be a little bit more easy. Homestead, the car's going to wiggle a lot, and that's just part and parcel of racing here. You got to look after your car, you got to look after those tires, you got to give yourself that long run pace to be able to grab those stage and then eventual wins. So let's see if he's learned anything from running Phoenix early tonight.
Ryan Cybery starting to fall outside of the top 10. Just lost that 10th position to Tom Bourne, who tries to cut in front and to the inside of Braxton DeWeese. Fortunately, he was clear going into turn 1, as now Robert Kenny, last week's runner-up from Daytona. He is going to try and go for the 11th spot on Cybery. Further up, good run there for the 8 of Matt Dyer, currently holding down a top 5 position as he looks in his rearview mirror and sees that bright yellow and green Days of Thunder throwback scheme of Brandon King.
Yep, and the king of alternate strategy, shall we call him, Matt Dyer. He never seems to want to run himself on a regular strategy. He always tries to throw the spanner in the works and throw something wild out there and see if it sticks. This is really, really good for him to see him this far up on a regular strategy through a regular stage. Ultimately, as a driver, I think he's improved massively. I think last season, maybe, he wasn't where he wanted to be in terms of things, so he started throwing some strategy wildcards around just to see what sticked. I think he's actually learned a lot out of that, and that's something that other drivers in the field won't have done, is tried an alternative strategy and see if they could make it work. He's going to have so much more information on what he can and can't do, and what's going to be strong and what's going to be weak. So if he can just get at the back end of this stage, set himself up, I think Dyer's got a good shot.
Yeah, Matt Dyer, of course, last week didn't fare the best at Daytona, finishing in the 18th position, and subsequently comes into this race 15th in the current standings. But I think there's a lot of drivers that headed into Daytona thinking, all right, we're just going to try and survive here. The real racing begins when we get to the 1.5 miles of Homestead, Miami, and we just kind of, based off of where we finish at Daytona, have to assess how aggressive or how conservative we have to be when we get to the 1.5 mile track.
Yeah, and look, I mean, he would have earned a lot of respect. I just got a notification there's another wreck actually on the backstretch at this point.
That's the 89 of Brandon King. We were just talking about him. Up there inside of the top 10, was running 6th at the time. No caution, as it looks like he was able to save it, but slow on the back straightaway, and now gets it refired out of turn 4.
Yeah, it just looks like him and the 14 just got together. I mean, that's unlucky. It's such a light contact. It's close racing, and unfortunately, sometimes that does just happen. That's you want to race close. You want to race these style of cars. Unfortunately, that is going to happen from time to time. You just gotta accept it. You gotta wear it. Ultimately, I would expect something to probably happen to the 14 because he has ended up causing that one. So when they look back at things, Spencer Hardison will probably expect some sort of maybe slap on the wrist or reprimand, or the next time you do this, there'll be a penalty attached to it. So that's racing.
Spencer's making his first start of the season. Jacob Grant out in front, leading here in the second stage out of High Five Racing. Now, he only made it 35 laps into last week's season opener at Daytona, finishing in the 30th position. So you want to talk about a driver that wants to get the season turned around early, it would be the driver of this 18 car.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's got a lot more time on his hands this week, because I tell you what, man, he's showing a clean pair of heels. 1.5 seconds, he's just about clear of that draft range at this point in time. So, clearly got a reasonable short-run car. Now he's going to try and extend that tire life out, get the most out of it over the long run, because right now he's showing a lot of pace. If the field pulls him in, he's going to need to make some sort of adjustment. But whatever happened at the end of that first stage, he's found a great race car.
Saw Jeremy Boucher lead us to the green flag on the last restart, dropped low, let a couple of drivers by. He's now starting to march his way back to the front, just got around Austin Greatorex to move back up to third, and then a close call there with the 33 of Cybery and the 8 of Matt Dyer off of turn 4, as 33 almost went down to the apron off the final corner to pass the 8 car for the 6th position. Now goes to work on the 14 of Spencer Hardison.
Yeah, well, tell you what, Dyer's starting to fall backwards just a little bit as well, isn't he? Unfortunately, that seems to be what he normally does, is he gets himself going and then he just sort of slowly loses that tire grip. So something I need to see from him is the biggest part of his driving is very, very quick on the short runs, but he has nothing. He can't look after those tires to save his life. Well, it showed itself up again this season, Dyer. What are you going to do about it, buddy?
61 at Bronson Stafford just hit pit road. Looks like this is a regularly scheduled stop for him. The only thing I'm assuming maybe the 61 is doing is he's trying to come down, get himself 4 fresh tires, taking advantage over the other drivers that are a lap down, so he would find himself in the free pass position at the end of this stage, which will take place in 15 laps. He, Evan Coleman, and Nick King were the only drivers -1 when we went back green.
Potentially could have been a little bit worried about temperatures as well. The front end of that car was not clean in any way, shape, or form. So, look, there's a couple of different options it could have been. Strategy is definitely one of them. I don't disagree with wanting to nab that free pass and get yourself back up there. I think if he's going to get himself a reasonable bag of points today, that's what he's going to do.
Well, I thought it was a regularly scheduled stop, but he's actually still sitting in his stall, so maybe down there getting more damage repaired on that machine. Tough break for a driver that was a contender last week at Daytona, led the most laps, won one of the stages, but the finish certainly did not reflect the strong car that he had last week at Daytona, and early struggles here. One of the drivers caught up in the lap 1 incident. A couple of other drivers that have also not really been able to recover since being involved in that incident over in turn 3. Derek Schilling, who the incident started with, last week's winner. Caleb Smith in the 12 actually, he also finds himself 2 laps down, and Blaine Woodruff has been running around the track somewhat off the pace, currently 5 laps down in 28th position. So a lot of drivers not really been able to overcome the early damage they sustained in this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, look, I mean, at least they're still out there. At least they're still enjoying themselves. That's what it's all about. You know, you don't join iRacing, don't join a league like this to go out there and hate yourself every single race. You got to have some fun. Unfortunately, sometimes when the chips are down like that, you got to keep your car going and just pick up a couple points. Something I've been keeping an eye on is have a look at Boucher. He's starting to take half a second. He took 0.4 of a second out of Jacob Grant in that last lap. You're right. He was looking after his tires. He just picked his drivers and said, hey, these guys are just going to be faster than me. They're going to be pushing. They're going to be super aggressive. No need for me to get involved in that. That's not my race. That's not what I'm after. Well, now the race is coming back to him. Can we see him go back-to-back in terms of stages?
At last time by, he ran a 32.8 to Jacob Grant's 33.1, so another 0.3 cut in. And it's going to be 11.5 laps to go here in this second stage. So looking to sweep the stages here at Homestead is the driver of the number 73. A driver that's running equal, if not faster lap times behind him, however, is his teammate, the 33 of Brian Sybery. So it may come down between these two as to who's going to take this green and white checkered flag.
Well, if you're in a team, do you share it? That's my question to you, Seth. Do you say, all right, you got the victory in that first stage. How hard do we want to fight this? Well, first and foremost, the goal will be get past Jacob Grant. Then we'll see what happens. I mean, if he wants to give it, he's entitled to do it. He is 100% entitled to do it. But right now, I don't think he's going to have much of a chance because Sybery's coming.
Well, I mean, even if he doesn't win this stage and Sybery gets around him to win the stage, I mean, that's 19 bonus points, 19 stage points netted by the 73 car. And as we've already documented, just based off the point standings coming into this race off of Daytona, those stage points are huge into gaining you positions in the stands, especially early on in the season when the points are so close.
Yeah, 100%. He wants to get himself up the head. The other thing is, he wants you to stamp his name out there early and say, hey, look, guys, might be new to the league. I'm a challenger. I'm here. I want to win this thing. Well, stages are stages. They're not full, and they're not the overall race victory, but he's doing everything he needs to get himself out there nice and early.
Yeah, just bridging off something you said earlier about a lot of new faces here in this series that we did not see when we covered last season of Clutch Drop. I mean, the thing of it is, though, they may be, I put this in air quotes, rookies in this league, but it doesn't mean that they're coming in with absolutely no experience. So it's great to be able to see these new faces and this young blood coming in and being competitive with the names that we've been used to seeing week after week.
Yeah, look at Shane Terrian. Look at how far down the field he is. That is one of your regular top performers from last season. He's still doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. He's done a great drive. He's sitting right there in fourth. He's done everything he needs to do to set himself up for a big run at the back end of this race. But right now, keep the eyes peeled. This is going to get exciting. What do we got? 7 laps to go? Oh, baby, this is going to be a big stage.
And it's going to be less than half a second separating the top 3. There you see, throw a blanket over them through 3 and 4. It's going to come down between these 3 potentially as to who's going to win the second stage of the race here at Homestead. The 73 of Bushi already won the first stage. Grant and Cybery looking for their first stage win of the season.
Yeah, I tell you what, where is Bushi going to be able to get this move done? He needs to set it up. Cybery's got him. So I think this is planned. Cybery got a huge run off the corner. Maybe Cybery lifted off. Okay, these guys have now got to work together. If they're teammates, you got to get by this guy. You've got to work together. You can't be fighting each other because if you're defending and you're trying to attack, here comes the run.
Cybery's been able to run on the inside of corner exit a lot better than other drivers around him, so that might be the place for him to make a move, as now Bushi's going to jump up about a groove higher on Jacob Grant, who left the door open. Now it closes, and Bushi's going to cross him down the back straightaway.
Oh, he got loose on corner exit, so he lost a little bit of momentum. Cybery's going to let him back in. He's got to find that groove. He's got to find that empty line. He's got it. The car's down there.
Grant just slipped up, maybe a half groove too high. Bushi alongside of him. Now if you're Cybery, what do? Do you try and help draft down the straightaway and push your teammate to the point? Or do you think about taking it 3 wide? Outside line actually got a little bit better momentum down the front straightaway. Contact between Bushi and Grant.
Yeah, so Grant has now forced Bushi to really push. He wants those stage victory, he wants the stage points. He's going to have to come at him. Bushi's having trouble. I think this is the right move. I think Cybery is the quickest of the 3 of these guys. If Bushi wants second place in this stage, I think the best possible thing he can do is let Cybery have a crack.
And it is going to be indeed that case. 33 is going to slide around his teammate, move into the second position. Cybery now the hunter, Jacob Grant the hunted, with 1.5 laps to go here. It's going to be the white flag, if you will, next time around, I do believe. No, I'm sorry. Actually, we're going to have 3.5 laps to go here. I was looking at the wrong number.
Well, he's down there. He's down there early. I think he's got him. He's just going to try and slide him up. Is Grant going to try and do the crisscross? No, it's done. Cybery's gone. He's got that move done. I think he's going to win this stage. Now, does he try and block him? Does he try and back him into Bushi?
I don't think he'll have to block him. That 33 rotated the center of 3 and 4 perfectly. I think he's going to open up the gap. Look at this. Already 4, 5, 6 car lengths off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. The 33 is gone.
And Jacob Grant has not had compromised air on his car in this stage whatsoever. So now he's struggling. He's looking at it and going, uh-oh, I'm going to do something. There's going to be 1 lap left in this stage at the stripe, though, so it's going to be so close. Bushi wants that second P.
He wants to get SRD a 1-2 finish here in this second stage.
He's got it.
He now peels to the inside, and I think you're right. He's going to have him cleared before they even get to the center of 1 and 2. So move him into that second spot. And while all this is going on, we've got a great battle for the final spot in this stage. Tom Bourne right now holds it down to Sean Gorham all over his back bumper with 1.5 laps to go.
Yeah, it's the start of lap 80 is, I'm pretty sure that the end of the stage is. We're about to cross that line to grab that mark. It's so close. It is so close, right up and down the field.
Cybery still out in front, waiting for that caution to come out to end the stage. Here is the battle here. I believe they're racing back to the completion of lap 80. Gorham in the 23, Bourne in the 54. 23 got awfully high that time off of turn 2. Not sure he's going to have a run at Tom Bourne here at the 3 and 4.
I mean, he's got to basically back the corner up and really try and exit. Nope, he's not going to get there.
Nope, caution's got to come out as Cybery had crossed the start-finish line. Moment the leader hits the line, caution comes out, and that battle was over in turn 4. Gorham was not quite able to get alongside of Tom Bourne, who will snipe the final stage point. Behind Gary Peck, Justin Belmonte, Alonzo Chicano, Braxton DeWee, Spencer Hardison, Shane Terrian, Jacob Grant, Jeremy Bushi, and your stage 2 winner, Brian Cybery. And it's interesting because we talked about the struggles last week of sim racing development, how they seem to have strong cars early on, but then a lot of things went wrong for them at Daytona. Boy, they are definitely setting the bar here at Homestead.
Yeah, I tell you what, one stage to one of their drivers, stage number 2 to the other one up at the front. And to tell you what, Jacob Grant, what a run from him. He showed exactly what a short run pace car should do, exactly how it should look, and exactly what you need to do. And man, he fell just short. Heartbreaking. But a great drive from him right through. That's phenomenal. These guys have been going at it hammer and tongue. They've done such a great job.
As long as you get stage points, that's really all that matters for these drivers in this first 80 laps. Overshooting his pit stall a little bit there was the 22 of Peck. Coming off pit road, the race leader, I believe, was Mike Tellier in the 97, but I think he might have missed his pit stall. He might have to come back down, as I think it'll actually be Brian Cybery will be the one to lead us back to the green flag. And we're now going to see if we can get a word with our stage 2 winner, the driver of the 33.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Well, we're doing good. Congratulations on the win here in stage 2. Complete sweep there for Sim Racing Development, but that 33 looks really fast on the long run.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know about the short run speed so much. It gets pretty racy with the group here, and I just got to be patient and pick my points where I want to make my moves, and just know what this car is going to be there 30, 40 laps in.
Well, something I'm considering, was that a planned move by a teammate there to let everyone by on the initial start of that stage and then sort of settle into the long run?
Well, I was on the outside and I missed a shift, and that kind of backed up the field a little bit. There was nothing planned about that.
Okay.
Towards the end, I think he was working on the leader and just said, "Hey, if you want to give a shot at it, go ahead."
Well, you had the pace. Out of the 2 cars, I definitely think that was the right decision, and what that's done is actually allowed him by as well, because you took the air off the Jacob Grant. But what a short run car from Jacob Grant. He did a great job there. Yeah,
like I said, man, even that last restart, I got overtaken. I think I was, up near the front, and I think I drifted back to like 12th, and just, everybody's able to run down low and fill up that line, that preferred line. So I just got to be patient and take my time. And like I said, I feel like it's got a long run speed, so I just had to wait and find my spots to get through there without getting into anybody.
Man, great job.
So, Brian, you guys just did 2 40-lap stints. Now you got to get set for this third and final stage, 90 laps in total. So what are you expecting? You expecting to see a little bit of the same of what we saw in those first 2 stages with the maybe early caution and the long green flag run, or do you expect this to play out a lot differently from the first half of the race?
Yeah, we all have probably, 2 sets of tires left, which means you're going to get one on your planned pit stop and one extra. So if a caution comes out, it'll definitely mix it up. But this track, all week has had long green flag runs. So I hope that's how it goes, and for my sake with my car, but we'll see.
Tell you what,
Brian,
it's been awesome racing right up and down the field, hasn't it? The field is so close.
Yeah, like I said, it was... I've picked my way all the way from back to 26, so it is fun racing with these guys. Everybody's doing a good job and racing aggressively, but doing it the right way. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a good time.
All right, Brian, well, we'll let you get back to it. Congrats on the stage win. Maybe we'll talk to you in victory lane. Best of luck.
All righty, thanks, guys.
Yeah, apologies for jumping in there, Steph, but it's
you're
awesome.
fine.
Because, like you said, he dropped all the way back through the field, but it was clean racing to bring it back to the front. Everyone's being respectful. Everyone's earning their place in this field. We have so many new faces, and the racing is on point. Look at how close the end of both of those stages were, That's fantastic. Great job. Boogity, boogity. Time to go racing, baby.
Yeah, we got them fanning out already, as it looked like Shane Tyrion was not ready for when the 33 accelerated. He drops back into the clutches of Chicano and Grant in a battle for the 3rd position. The 33, though, was wondering about his short run speed. He fired off pretty well, about 2 car lengths in hand over Spencer Hardison, as we nearly had a wreck back there off of turn 2. That was Brandon King having to gather it up.
Yeah, Brandon's gonna. I mean, he obviously got loose in that last stage, had contact with the 14 Spencer Hardison, so he's trying to work his way back up through the field. Look, I mean, it happened in the stage. You know, it didn't happen in the last long green flag run, so at least there's that. But I can pretty much guarantee he gets anywhere back up near Spencer Hardison, there ain't gonna be no love lost there.
Right now, Shane Tyrion, the highest running of the Luminary drivers, in the 3rd position. 2 of his teammates, however, between the end of the 2nd stage and now have actually gone to the garage here. We saw Bronson Stafford on pit road earlier. He made the hard left-hand turn into the infield, and also the 13 of Austin Greatorex has retired out of the race. So 4 drivers have DNF'd up to this point, and caution is out.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a look and see where that one is. Actually, something that's interesting to note, Matt Dyer is at the rear of the field.
He came down topped off when we got to the 1 to green.
He's looking to make sure that he can get right up there in terms of fuel conservation modes and make sure that this is a one-stop for him. This caution basically checks that last little bit of the box. He's definitely only got the one stop to go. His best result is just exactly the same as what Cybery said. It's going to be that one stop to the end from here, and then he's good.
We know that Brandon King had his hands full over in 1 and 2. He was down the apron there again, and then the contact's going to take place here heading into turn 3. Derek Schilling just gets Caleb Smith in the left rear quarter panel, spins him around. Fortunately, nobody else makes any contact, but it is the 12 car looping it around to the entrance of turn 3, bringing out our 5th caution.
Yeah, unlucky. Again, you know, cold tires, that's exactly just what happens. You just got to make those couple of adjustments. So these guys, they'll figure it out. They'll get back out there. They'll you know, back on top of things and be right and ready to go again.
Riding on board with last week's winner from Daytona, and I'm kind of watching here as he moves up. Goes up just a little too much there to the right. Looks like maybe was trying to attempt the side draft there down the back straightaway.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's racing though, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So 5th caution of the day. It's the 3rd straight time that we have started a stage and had an early caution come out. I believe so far we're 3 for 3 in caution coming out prior to the 5th lap being completed of a stage. The only other 2 cautions we've had have been for the breaks between stages 1 and 2 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, just make some adjustments, boys. Let's keep it racing. Let's keep it nice and clean if we can. So, unfortunately, yeah, look, cars are close. They're going to make contact like that. Hopefully admins are going to let us go too deep on the restart here. So we'll see what happens.
It's like will be the 69. Well, actually, no, I'm not certain about that anymore. The 2 drivers that were 2 laps down for the 2 drivers that got together there, Derek Schilling and Caleb Smith, so I'm not certain there will be a free pass here under this yellow flag. There will be 23 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green flag racing. Got a couple of drivers that have come down pit road, couple of takers towards the rear end of the field as we wait for the 1 to green signal. Brian Cybery leading this race. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll be back here for the restart at Homestead for the Clutch Drop Cup Series. You're not going to miss a thing. We're going FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Welcome.
Get ready to go back green flag racing with what is going to, looks like, be 85 laps to go here as we're into our third and final stage at Homestead. And Scott, the admins heard you. We're going back double file restarting here.
Yeehaw! That's what I wanted to see. All right. Cybery gets a clean jump. That's what I wanted to see from him. We'll go back to the top, and he'll just continue just looking after those tires. I mean, admittedly, he's not had a long run yet, and that would, you'd think, play into the hands of somebody like Jacob Grant, but continues to lead.
So far, Jeremy Bushi and Brian. Oh, we got a wreck. That's Bob Carroll in the 27 mid-pack, nosing it up into the outside wall. Caution is going to fly for the 6th time tonight.
Oof. All of a sudden, you change it from a stage to the end of the race and the big points moment, and these guys suddenly forget how to drive.
And there's a lot caught up in this one. Evan Coleman,
Oh, yeah.
Dylan Stipe, Nathan Hall. I see our pole sitter Alex Link back there. David Duran was involved. I think Deshaun Gorman, the 23, got a piece. I mean, this was a multi-car wreck and possibly the biggest wreck we've had so far here tonight.
I tell you what, somebody who's the big winner out of that one is Braxton DeWeese. He just dodged that all the way down on the insides. That was so close. Could have been his night over. Just luckily things fell his way. Cars wrecked up into the outside wall. Look, that's racing. You know, you got to be in the right place at the right time, and he definitely was. Oh boy, that's so close. He could have just been totaled there.
He was on the inside of a 4-wide situation coming off of turn 2, and watch right here as 27 comes back down the track. He's going to get hit by Brandon King. Oh my goodness, was that Hall? Nathan Hall went up and into the air there.
Just trying to picture it. Yeah, look, I mean, it's disappointing. It really is that it's descended into this, but that's race. Oh, that's unlucky.
Here with the 28.
Yeah, his car bouncing around. Dylan Stipe got into that one. The 89 was in that one. There's so many good cars. Brandon King's managed to stay on the lead lap, which is really, really good for him. Matt Dyer. Just remember, we were talking about Matt Dyer running right at the rear end of the field. He was looking to, make sure that his car was full of fuel. Unfortunately, that is what can sometimes happen when you take that option to run at the rear end of the field. Looks for him like he's gotten through that one completely and utterly A-OK, but he would have had one of the best views of the night. Oh, actually, you know what? I retract that. I think he's found his way into this.
Yep, he was involved. So too was the 22 of Gary Peck. I already mentioned the 89 of Brandon King getting involved. There was at least, I believe, 10 drivers that were collected up in this incident as we're going to ride on board here with Matt Dyer, see what he saw. Now, I think out of all the drivers that took hits, I think he took relatively the lightest, which is kind of ironic because he got sandwiched here on the back straightaway.
Yeah, oh my god, he's dodged it. He's dodged the whole thing. Just about, right at the back end of it.
Tiny bit of contact at the very end. He actually had that 28 of Nathan Hall flying right over his windshield, and no contact was made.
Wow, that's unlucky. He nearly got through that. Was it 25? Did he make it through as well? Just looking at that one, I think you might find that Caleb Smith actually come out of that with about the same level of contact. That actually he might have gotten through. There's no extra damage on that car.
We'll check and
everything
see
that was on it was already on it. Oh, he got a light tap, very light tap on the side.
That car had already been involved in an incident earlier on today, but we'll watch and see if he's able to snake his way through this incident. Oh yeah, he goes all the way down to the apron to try and avoid. Had already been at the back of the pack after getting involved with Derek Schilling on the previous caution, and watch him try and find a hole, hope that it opens up. Just avoids the 22 of Peck, and I don't think he hit anything. I think he made it through cleanly.
He got a very light tap to the side, so it won't be anything that makes things worse, shall we say, for him. It certainly didn't get better, but there's a lot of cars that'll be down around his pace now. I've just got a really good shot. I'm actually going to list off all the cars that are currently involved in that one. Caleb Smith. We've got the 27 of... Just looking through my fields. So the 27's involved. We've got the 4 of Stipe, 69, 22, 28, 89, 43. 24 was also involved. I'm just trying to get, the last couple cars that I can't quite see. 23 was involved. That's one of the cars I couldn't see. Robert Kenny was involved in the 34, the 15, the 71, the 51. And there's a car that completely and utterly dodged it all the way up in the background. No, sorry, that's a lie. 77 of Blaine Woodruff was involved in that. So that's all the cars that were involved in that one.
So basically, everything that you had on that list are all the drivers that do not include the top 11. From 12th place on back, every single one of those drivers got involved in that incident in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Rough. Very rough. I mean, Matt Dyer, he was involved just slightly, so it'd be interesting to see how much damage is done to his car and what sort of condition it's in. Tristan Mayer, I think he dodged it, but it was quite close.
He would have been the last of the drivers to get through it, as he'll be restarting in 11th position, getting ready to turn them back loose here to go green yet again, this time with 80 laps to go. And of those drivers that you listed off, it looks like 3 of them have officially retired out. Deshaun Gorham, Nick King, Bob Carroll. Add another one now as Nathan Hall just went to the garage area. And drivers that are sitting on pit road trying to get their cars repaired: Gary Peck, Alex Link, David Duran, Dylan Stipe, and Evan Coleman. So right now, theoretically, we have 16 cars that are running somewhat up to speed out there, and only 13 of them on the lead lap.
I was just about to say, Mike Tellier, he looks really, really damaged, but that didn't come from that accident. That's an earlier bit of damage. So something happened to him that we must have missed. He's got a huge hit in the rear right corner of that car. So there's something that's happened there. So right now, the field's just got to sort of shake itself all out, see where everyone's pace is, keep our eyes forward. Cybery, look, this isn't what he wanted. He wanted that big, long green flag period when he knew that he was good. But we know that this race is now one stop to the end.
Now he's under fire. Shane Terrian to the inside, trying to take the lead through 3 and 4, and the 33 having some connection issues. That's going to affect him, as well as not quite clear as Shane Terrian. Cybery's going to battle back on the outside line.
Yeah, and for Cybery, what this is about, he just wants to force Shane Terrian to drive that car a little bit harder than he wants to, burn up a little bit more of that rubber than he really needs to at this phase of the race, and then the car is just going to completely and utterly come back into Cybery's favor. He's happy to see this. He wants to see these guys pushing. He wants to see these guys trying to send it on his inside. He's just going to maintain the momentum, ride that high line, look after his gear, and he says, hey, boys, I'll see you in about 10 laps.
Another driver that has gone to the garage area. Tough break for our pole sitter tonight, Alex Link. Looks like he will finish outside of the top 20 if a couple of drivers are able to return to the track that are currently running behind him, David Duran and Dylan Stipe. Right now, Alex scored in the 19th position. A driver that has kind of made the most of the situation, who was involved in the incident all the way back on lap 3, actually 2 of them, running currently 16th and 17th place. That's last week's winner, Derek Schilling, and the 77 of Blaine Woodruff. Now, obviously, they're not up to speed. They're not going to win this race, but as we know in this point system, every position is a point, and we get down here to the end of the regular season, who knows? The finishes they get here tonight could be a difference between them being a playoff contender or not.
Yeah, look, I mean, you say 15th and 16th. It's actually 14th and 15th. Oh, sorry, no, you're right. My bad. My mistake. It is 15th and 16th. Derek Schilling's in the 69 machine. Yeah, you said it. Look, points are going to matter. And Derek got into a wreck on the opening couple of laps, the opening exchanges. He's still out there. He's still collecting points. We've seen a lot of guys that have just completely and utterly dropped out. This is what you need to do to win a championship. Schilling is locked in to the playoffs. So he doesn't need to be out there. Why is he still out there? Because he knows that he needs to just continue grabbing points and making sure that he's safe.
Grabbing points and gaining experience, because who knows, when we come to Homestead for the second time later on in the schedule, you know, there may be a case where he'll be able to figure out, if he ends up having a damaged race car, what he was able to accomplish here today, and maybe be able to replicate that. And if he's able to keep his car clean when we come back to Homestead, he may be able to do even better.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, yeah, you've got to be out there to be grabbing information. That's what we've always said, right? So, look, we'll see what happens. We'll see what's going on. He's over a lap ahead of the car in 16th place, which is Caleb Smith. And, I mean, Brandon King's right there alongside him, so anything could happen. I mean, King, he's had a rough night. He's not had the best. I mean, overdriving at turn 1 and 2 on one of those restarts. So, look, he'll be looking for a cleaner night again, I think, next week. But he showed some pace, he showed some skill, and he showed his ability to get deep into that top 10. So, hard luck for a few of the guys tonight, but sometimes that is that is racing, and you gotta roll with the punches. You take the wins when they come your way, and you gotta unfortunately bite the bullet when it gets dealt your way.
Spencer Hardison finally completes the pass around Jacob Grant for third place. Those two were side by side for the last 3 or 4 laps. Tom Bourne back there in the 54 car, he got some damage earlier on in this race. He's been able to soldier his way up to 5th, and right behind him is the number 10 of Alonso Chicano. And I'm trying to remember last season, I want to say it was Chicagoland. He was a player in that one, and he's been quietly remaining up there inside of the top 10. We saw him play the strategy of short pitting at the beginning of the first stage, was able to make it to the stage end on fuel, and keep an eye on this guy because he's been under the radar here ever since we started this race.
Yeah, he has, and look at his position. You know, all of these guys have now pitted on lap 81, so they've just been conserving fuel under the safety car. A lot of these guys haven't gone back down pit road. They haven't gone down for that top-up. Some of the guys around the back of the field went down, grabbed that top-up, got involved in that wreck. Their days are basically done. Matt Dyer is right at the back end of that sort of field, so keep your eyes on where he is sitting in terms of the standing, because he's going to give you a really good earmark of everyone forward of him as the guys that have still got pace, that are still potentially in with a victory on this race. Well, when Alonso Chicano starts to climb his way back up towards the end of this race, maybe he's made some tweaks, maybe he's found that extra few tenths that he needed to put the car right up there and challenge for a podium.
We're starting to see now, we're entering into the stage of this run where the long run cars are starting to shine. Shane Terrian lost the race lead to Brian Sibery. Sibery starting to pull away. We saw Alonso Chicano make the pass for 5th on Tom Bourne, and another driver that is slowly working his way through the field is that number 97 of Mike Tellier that you were talking about. He's picked up 3 spots since the last restart.
Yeah, I'm just keeping my eyes on a few different things. Caleb Smith has been in the lane on lap 97, so what was that, 10 laps ago? So it's probably under the caution period. I reckon he's actually grabbed 4 fresh tires. He's grabbing his lap back. He's gone out there and said, you know what, I'm going to get this back on my own. Don't need no wave around. I'll do it the good old-fashioned way. I'll drive the car up there. So keep your eyes on him. He's on an alternate strategy, but throughout this next period, he's actually good. One downside, we heard Cybery mention it, was actually there's an extra set of tires that you would normally have left over. He doesn't have that. So at his next pit stop, he's going to probably take his last set of tires. He might save them. Who knows? But then he's going to be so detrimentally affected over that last run if it goes green. I don't think it's worth it. I think he's going to take him on the next stop. If there's a restart with 10 to go, he's dead in the water. If it runs green until that stage, he's made the right call.
For Caleb Smith, right now, he's basically just trying to race amongst himself, Brandon King and Derek Schilling, who are all off the lead lap. With coming to pit road when he did, Caleb Smith now finds himself 4 laps down. Very unlikely that he'll be back on the lead lap by the time we get around to the finish of this race. But slower traffic playing a little bit of a factor here into putting some battles together up at the front. It's going to be Spencer Hardison trying to get a run to the inside of Jacob Grant, who I think might have just gotten the wall there off of turn 2.
I think he got the wall on turn 1 and 2 entry from Jacob Grant. So it's really, really close. And I mean, he's now trying to send it down the inside of Terrian as well. So there's a fair few moves and shakes going on. Terrian's car, we saw his pace early on. Cybery let him go. Look at where Cybery is right now. He's really looked after that car, and he's just gone. Any progress that Terrian made? Nah, he's tripled that back in the opposite direction. Wow, that is a fast race car.
And, you know, this is the same type of strategy that he played here in Stage 3 that we saw his teammate Jeremy Boucher do back in Stage 2, where he backed off, let a couple of drivers on by him, took care of his stuff, and then he, along with his teammate Cybery, were able to get around Jacob Grant to finish 1st and 2nd in that second stage. I think he did the exact same thing here, did Cybery. He allowed Shane Terrian to get the early advantage, use up his stuff, and while he was using up his stuff, the 33 conserved. Now we're seeing the difference between who saved and who did not.
Dylan Stipe just makes his way back out on track as well. Jacob Grant looks like he was conserving just a little bit more than Terrian was, and he's going to slide on by, so he'll pick up that P2 spot. Let's see if he can hunt down Cybery. I honestly don't believe he can, though, so this will be interesting.
Shane Terrian all over his back bumper, heading down the front straightaway, then backed off before they got to the entrance of turn 1. That falls back into the clutches of the 14 of Spencer Hardison. He's trying to get to the left rear quarter panel. A little bit further back, a driver that was up in 5th and now has drifted is the 54 of Tom Bourne. He's lost spots to Justin Belmonte and Jeremy Bushi in the last 10 laps.
So another car that was really pushing for that short run pace, and well, we talked about it. Bushi had that really good long run pace. Now the field starts to come back to him. Unfortunately, this time around, Cybery's gone. Cybery's much further up the track, so he's got to fight his own teammate in terms of who looked after their tires better in the early run and if he can make that ground back up. He's got a lot of race cars to pass here, so from my side of things, I think that it's going to be tough. But I think the guys that are best positioned to probably win this race is number 1, obviously Cybery. My money's on Chicano here. If we get a caution, I think Chicano might take this.
Yeah, right now, looking in terms of lap times, Jeremy Bushi has the 2nd fastest lap time, only to his teammate Brian Cybery. The reason that Cybery has the faster lap time, he's out there in clean air. The 73 right now back in traffic, as there is Chicano now looking to the inside of Shane Tyrion for the 4th position. And that last time by, to the point you just made, Chicano and Cybery, they ran identical lap times.
Yeah, something else to keep your eyes on as well is that Grant's actually showing a clean pair of heels and a good bit of pace right now. He ran a 33.0 the last time around for my liking, so there's a fair few drivers that are starting to make pace. Grant's clearly noticed something at the back end of stage number 2 and recognized that maybe he overdrove the car just a little bit. Maybe there was a slight tweak to the car that he needed to make to get that performance over the long run. Well, he's found it, and I reckon he's going to go with these leaders. He's showing consistently 1/10 faster than them.
Tell you one thing about that couple of cautions that came out in the early stages of this 3rd and final stage. It's making things really close in terms of fuel strategy, because we know that drivers were running out of fuel at the first 40-lap stint, the first 40-lap stage. They were running out in the closing stages. We've had a couple of cautions here in this 3rd stage to be able to save a couple of laps of fuel, but by my calculations, let's say that these drivers maybe, by the best possible scenario, can go 45 laps on what they've got in the tank. These guys are out there right now on their 35th lap of this run, so if they come down pit road in the next 10 laps, that's going to still be with 50 laps to go. I think they still would have to come to pit road at least one more time between now and the upcoming pit stop.
I agree. I 100% agree. Now, for my liking, what do you do with tires? Do you leave the ones that are still on the car on, or do you grab a new set? You've only got one more set of tires. You've got 2 more sets of tires, right? It's going to be that short run at the back end of the race. The pit stop is with tires is just longer than that fuel run. If you just take right side tires, you're going to pick up a lot of pace, and you're not going to lose all that amount of extra time. So that might be the call at the last stop. But I agree with you. I think we're still on a 2-stop run to home.
We'll see if anybody might be noticing that situation and might actually be trying to save here in this run to try and stretch it. If they could maybe stretch it an extra 2.5 laps, maybe they can save that other 2.5 laps on the last run. But then the hard thing about that too is we've seen this race take on 2 different aspects. The early cautions in the start of the stages, and then the long green flag runs to finish it out. There's no telling that we might not have a late race yellow, and then all of that saving and all the time you lost in trying to save would be all for naught.
Yeah. And something else to consider is with that tire strategy. Do you take it? Do you take it here? I think you have to. I think you've got to shorten that last run up. If you're coming down for another splash and go, you probably aren't going to take the tires there. We talked about you potentially taking that right side. There's a lot of strategy to play out here. I think the best possible case for most of these drivers, they want to go as far as they possibly can right now. The shorter that they pit now, the shorter their run right now, the harder they make the rest of the race for themselves. So we're going to be seeing pit stops in the next couple of laps, but it's going to be so close.
I mean, I know that they're probably going to have to spend enough time on pit road to get that thing full of fuel, but do you maybe think about going with just the right side tire strategy and
not here,
maybe splitting that final setup?
Not here. For my liking, you're taking all 4 tires. There's a car in the pit lane right now. I think that was Blaine Woodruff though, so not on the lead lap. Obviously, he's come down pit lane because he's damaged and whatnot. He's gonna go early, see if he can get some pace and try and make a little bit of time back up. But he's the first one of our cars to go to pit lane. For my liking, I think you've got to take 4 here. It's too far to the end to be running on those 2 tires. you're going to gain a very, very small amount of time, and then you're going to just lose it for the entire rest of the race. It's too much. It's too much to ask.
Harry Peck has gone to the garage area, and I'm starting to see a couple of drivers are backing their pace down, including race leader Brian Sibry. That last time by was the slowest lap he's run in the last 15 circuits since we went back green. Also backing their pace down were the cars of Shane Tyrion, Justin Belmonte, and Tom Bourne. So it looks like some of these guys are realizing the situation that if they're going to make it on just one pit stop, they're really going to have to save on this run and the upcoming run.
Jacob Grant's coming in. So we're gonna see the first of our pit stops. I just heard it on the radio. He's coming in. I'm not sure who's following. Braxton DeWeese is going into the lane. All right, here we go. So Grant, I think for me, he's compromised. He's fuel compromised. So he is going to have to come down and take on the most fuel out of all of these guys to get to the back end of the race. He hasn't saved anywhere near enough, and he didn't have enough pace for my liking to get close enough to Sibry. Sibry has this one on lock. Watch him work with Boucher.
Also on pit road was the 12 of Justin Belmonte. We also saw the 4 of Dylan Stipe come down pit road. He was slow on the back straightaway, but looks like he is coming down for a regularly scheduled stop as Sibry continues to stay out. We'll see who the next number of cars will be. It looks like Shane Tyrion in the 38 brings his Toyota to pit road.
Yeah, he needs to come early because he's losing a lot of time because of what he's burned up in terms of tires. Boucher's now running 4th. I want to keep my eyes on him. I want to keep my eyes on Sibry. Those are the guys that are going to be able to run the absolute longest. And for Hardison, if he wants to win this race, he's got to go with them. I don't think he can win this race if he pits earlier than them. Chicano, we've paid no attention to him all night. What's he going to be able to do? Hardison's in the lane now.
Hardison coming to pit road from the 3rd position, coming down to the attention of his crew. And something I've been watching here, the lap times of Sibry, saw he backed his pace down while everybody else behind him looked like they might have been in tire conservation mode. As soon as that first car ducked onto pit road, he picked his pace back up again.
Yeah, great strategy, great planning. He was just trying to bait that out. He's also going to make sure that whilst those guys are on fresher tires, they're going to be making up time. Remember, the lap time drop-off is quite significant around a track such as Homestead. So the guys that are going down, they're getting 4 fresh tires. They're going to come out ahead of you. And a lot of those cars are short-run cars. So they don't look after their tires, but they get that pace very, very early on. That is not what Sibry wants. He's going to be very, very careful in terms of strategy play here. He's surely going to be coming to pit road this time.
Tom Bourne came down pit road the lap before it, and on cue, here comes the 33 down pit road, giving up the race lead. And the big question is this the final pit stop of the day for the current race leader?
For my liking, no, I think he's dead. There's, 48 laps to go? No, he's got to make another stop. Tell you what, Boucher, I'm sure Boucher is dry. I am 100% sure that he's going to be coming to the pits this time by. If he can go another lap, you can go another 2 laps, all of a sudden everyone starts sitting there and going, hey, wait a minute, it might be doable. This is a problem. And Boucher might run away with it, but surely he's going to be coming in.
See if
he's going another lap! He's going another lap!
How about that? Wow.
He might have won this.
Well, here's the thing. When you talked with Boucher and when you talked with Sibry when they won the 1st and 2nd stages, there was talk about was there some cooperation going on between the teammates. What they might be doing here is they're bringing the 33 car down, the sure thing to make sure that he's going to probably be able to make it on fuel. They're taking the gamble with the 73, who's been able to rack up a lot of stage points as he pushes up the track there, almost into Braxton DeWeese. I think what they're doing is they're kind of playing the odds, ensuring that whichever strategy works out, that an SRD car is going to win here today at Homestead.
Yeah, and look, he's by staying out as long as he possibly is, if a caution falls, he wins. He wins. Everyone else that doesn't get by him, they lose. But what this means is that he has got to be phenomenal on this last stint because he's going to have to catch up so much time. But at the same time, all of these guys that are now ahead of him, all these guys that have pitted and taken, he's still going. He is still going.
He is on his 47th lap right now on this run.
Everyone else behind him has to pit once more. He's 1 pit away from the end.
Well, either they'd have to pit or they'd have to drastically save at some point of this run.
There's no way. They have to commit. Matt Dyer is the only one who's going to be able to one-stop this to the end, and he's got a damaged car, remember. He pitted late on. He pitted on lap 92 under that caution period when he picked up that damage. He's surely got to be in this lap for my liking for Boucher. Yeah, there he is. He's going in.
Tristan Mayer in the 17 also stayed out lap. I think he came down a lap earlier than Boucher did. He might be able to make it the rest of the way, and Matt Dyer is going to stay out. Now, he's got this option because he did top off the fuel tank before we went back green, so he could go, theoretically, another 2 laps before he has to come down to the attention of his crew.
I think it get longer. I think Matt's been conserving. Matt would know that if he's going to win this race with his car in the condition that he's in, he has to just save. We were talking about earlier, he's the guy that's going to run that alternative strategy. If somebody's going to be able to do it, it's Matt Dyer. He's going to be the one. Now, for my liking, Boucher, remember, we ran a lot of caution laps in that period. So for him to go, 45, 46, 47 laps, a lot of that was caution. He needs to save from the get-go here, and everyone else is going to be doing the exact opposite. They're going to be pushing like crazy. They're basically saying, well, Boucher's going to make it. We have to make this additional strategy work. So I think from the hands of somebody like Cybery, even though he's got that better car over the long run, I expect you're going to start seeing him burn that stuff up. He's going to go very, very aggressive if he wants to beat his teammate.
If this thing goes green to the end, it'll be so interesting to see what strategy works out, because if you look in terms of lap times right now, with Matt Dyer staying out there, saving fuel, he is running 33.7s. Jacob Grant, who did take on a set of tires when he came to pit road, is running a 32.1. So he's gained anywhere from a second to a second and a half every single lap, and he is still on the lead lap as the 18.
Yeah, he's just over 10 seconds back. He's 11 seconds back at the moment. So Dyer has got the hole, but not by much. Who would I put my money on right now? Whoa. You know, I'm going to put my money on Boucher. I think Boucher, it's either Boucher or Dyer for my liking. Now, it's very close, and a lot has to go their way, but I think they can do it. And you've got to remember as well, from here to the end of the race, Boucher is going to be making time. This is also, if this continues to go green flag running, there is no way in hell that we're going to see 4 tires taken at the next pit stop for these guys unless it's under caution. It's going to be rights or nothing. My money, nothing. I think the stop's too short.
And the most important thing, I think, for Jeremy Boucher was the fact he was able to keep himself on the lead lap. If he'd gone a lap down, then things might be a little bit questionable on whether or not he was still in the running. But the fact that he is still on the same lap as the race leader, I think that is a huge implication for him to possibly win this thing, as now Matt Dyer comes to pit road. So we're going to have to see if he'll be able to stay on the lead lap as well. But for right now, the goal to stay on the lead lap and be anywhere from 5 to 8 laps better on fuel than the rest of his competition, successful for the 73 car.
Yep. Successful 73 car, successful for the 8 car. 8 car may not even, what are we? We're close, so he's going to have to take a full tank here for sure. But he's got to make it home, that's next step. Now, all right, tick box number 1. We've run as long as we possibly can right here. Well, now we've got to keep saving. We've got to keep saving, got to keep saying. Dyer won't have pace. He's got a damaged car. Don't forget that. That is very, very important. But I still think that he has put himself in with a chance. It may be a small chance, but it is a chance and a half. Something else to consider. Grant pitted earlier than Cybery. Cybery of this league group was the last one to pit. Grant pitted on lap 122. Cybery's just taken second place, pitted on lap 26. He's just taken away from Hoddison. Spencer Hoddison pitted on lap 124. We've also got Braxton DeWeese and Justin Belmonte. They both pitted on lap 122, and they're right together with each other. They're 0.7 seconds apart. Yeah, I was expecting this. Cybery go to the lead very, very quickly. Man, we got a race on our hands. This is what I love to see.
Yeah, and if this thing goes green to the end, it'll be interesting to see if maybe Cybery can build enough of a lead where he could save the laps that he is lacking on fuel. On the flip side, for the 73 of Jeremy Boucher, right now he is running 17 seconds behind his teammate in the 10th position, but I kind of think with him being on pit road 6 laps ago, if he can maybe save 3 to 4 laps here in maybe the first 10 laps of this stint, he could then push the remainder of this race.
Potentially. I don't think so. I actually think that Boucher's saving. Cybery's pushing, Boucher is saving this entire run. I don't think that he is going to be able to save enough fuel early enough in this run to start putting pedal to the metal. I think he's going to have to save it the whole way home just to be able to make it. But man, we talked to him, he's on the clutch, he can do it. He's capable, he's just proven to us that he's capable of making this long run work. So, well, Cybery for my liking, he's going to go berserk. He's going to try and shake him off. But if you have a look at the pace right now, Boucher's only 18 laps behind him. 18 seconds behind him. That's not enough. Right now, it's Boucher. It's Boucher, and Dyer's not going to be too far behind either.
Big question on, will these drivers be able to make it on fuel, or do they have a pit stop maybe in the final 5 laps that they're going to have to make? Remember, we had a driver that ran out of fuel on the final lap of the first stage, and then another one ran out of fuel while under pacing between stages 1 and 2. So it's going to be really close for pretty much every single driver here in the top 13 that all currently are running on the lead lap, as Cybery currently holds 2.5 seconds back to the battle for second between Spencer Hardison and Jacob Grant. So right now, very clear, the 33 is not in fuel save mode yet.
Yeah, something else from my liking as well that I was having a look at. Matt Dyer is only 10 seconds back off Boucher. Now, he won't have to save anywhere near as aggressively as Boucher will, but he will have to do some fuel saving just to guarantee that he gets home. And he's not losing as much pace as we might have thought. Last couple laps have been 32.2, 32.1s. There's been a couple right in around that margin. He's just done a 32.3. So he is definitely faster than Cybery at different points. There is so much going on here. He needs to get around the 69 here of Delic Schilling, and he needs to do it quickly, and he needs to just keep pushing through that traffic. Tell you what, I think somebody else is just going down pit lane to get the race done. No, sorry, my mistake. I was reading Brian Woodruff, who is actually still on pit road. That's my mistake.
This playoff grid will not be put together until the end of August, really. So still a long schedule to go, but a great start to the season for a number of drivers here that had decent performances last week at Daytona and following up here at Homestead. Your race leader, Brian Cybery, he ended up finishing 4th last week at Daytona and came into this race 4th in the point standings. A little ways back, you've got Tom Bourne in the 54, who came in the points leader after a 3rd place run last week. He is going to currently be holding down the 8th position, and right behind him is his luminary teammate, Robert Kenny, in that 34 machine, 2nd in points, and right now inside of the top 10. So there's a lot of drivers that, obviously we know they have the capabilities of winning during the course of this regular season, but there are going to probably be some drivers that point their way in, and why not put yourself in a position here in the first 2 races and just build off of that?
Tell you what, I'm just having a look at Boucher. Sorry to interrupt the train of thought and obviously talk about things that aren't about points and aren't about last season's results. Cybery just ran 0.7 of a second faster than Boucher. Boucher aggressively sabering. Cybery pushing. He is on it. He is saying right now, I've got to go out there, I've got to grab this thing by the throat, and I've got to drive it to the win.
Again, that could be, we saw 73 stay out, the 33 come to pit road earlier, about I think it was 4 laps earlier than Jeremy Boucher. So again, I think what these two have done, obviously there's some team communication going on. They want to make sure that a sim racing development driver goes to victory lane here today, whether it be the 33 or the 73. So they tried 2 entirely different strategies and decided to play the odds and see which strategy is going to work out.
Well, something else to consider, Dyer pitted on lap 134. For him to get home, 41 to 42 laps is what he's got to get out of this tank. For Boucher to get home, he's got to get 45 laps out of that thing. That is a big ask. But you can see that he set himself up early, very, very early in the run, and he said, I've got to do it, and I've got to do it early, right? He'd be on the clutch with, he's 15 laps into this run. He would have been on the clutch from 5 laps into this run just to try and get this thing home. That's the only way that it's going to happen. He's going to drive as carefully and as consistently as possible and save as much fuel as possible. Keep your eye on that thing. He's going to be out of the throttle as much of the lap as he possibly can. As the lap times start to bleed off, that gets easier and easier and easier. Actually, just looking at that last lap around, he's actually 0.3 faster than just about every car. A couple cars were basically the same pace as him. I'm looking at the number 10 car of Alonso, the 33 of his teammate in Cybery, and Spencer Hardison are the 3 cars that are around the same pace as the 73 of Boucher. Everyone else, their paces are a little bit up and down, a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down. and he's running nearly identical lap times. So Boucher, he's trying to tick all those boxes. He is trying his damnedest.
Now the driver's gone to the garage area. Caleb Smith, looks like he'll probably finish 19th here tonight. A couple of drivers that have been able to pick up some spots returning back to the racetrack after being involved in that big wreck on the back straightaway. Evan Coleman in the 51, right now 16th, and Dylan Stipe in the 18th position. So they'll at least finish inside of the top 20 despite having wounded race cars. Also Brandon King in the 89, right now 5 laps down in the 14th position. So making the best of the situation were some of those drivers.
Yep, 100%. And, you know, at the end of the day, those sort of guys staying out there could end up just deciding this race.
Oh, 33 got loose. Our race leader nearly spun it around in the center of 1 and 2.
Oh, and that's right around Matt Dyer as well. So Dyer will be saying, hey, look, if you want to punch a hole in the air for me, please do so. Just, you know, don't risk it.
Close call there. Maybe a heart-stopping moment for our race leader, as Spencer Hardison has moved into second, but 5.5 seconds plus behind the 33. And here comes Matt Dyer in the 8 trying to get back on the lead lap. Remember, Matt Dyer came down pit road a lap later than Jeremy Boucher did, but he just got put a lap down to the race leader in the 33.
It was
so
4 laps. It was 4 laps later for Dyer. Dyer come down on 134, so...
How much of a sense of urgency do you think Matt Dyer has? We know that he's got a damaged car, not quite up to speed, but how much of a sense of urgency does he have to get back on the lead lap here, get back around this 33?
Honestly, if the caution comes out, he's the first car a lap down who got the lucky dog anyway. His best bet is to just sit here behind the 33. He wants to draft off him. He wants to fuel save. If the caution comes out, his strategy gets thrown out the window anyway. If the caution doesn't come out, this is exactly where he wants to be on the racetrack. Why? This is the fastest car on the racetrack. It means he's going to save the most fuel and gain the most time. Another car's just blinked to actually come down pit lane. I think it's Schilling, actually, so never mind that.
That's last week's winner from the 15th position, currently 7 laps down. Now, we've kind of speculated the drivers that we think might be able to make it to the checkered flag and what they've got in the tank. I think it's easier to be able to name off the drivers that pretty much don't have a shot, have to have a caution come out here to be able to save them having to come down pit road in the closing stages. And 3rd and 4th place, Grant and DeWeese would certainly fall into that category.
Yeah, Oh, Cybery nearly caused another caution!
Out on the apron on the front straightaway, that's going to lose him some valuable time in an interval he had grown between himself and the 14 cars. We got another car that is coming down pit road. That's the 12 of Belmonte. Now, he was the 3rd driver that I was going to list there of drivers that I thought probably couldn't make it on fuel, and he's electing to come down and get that extra couple of laps he needed right now. Question is he going to take on that final set of tires?
Look, I think we've proved, yeah, the tires are going on. So it's right sides at the moment. Is he going to take... I think he's taking both. He's taking both.
Yes,
he's taking 4. I like this. I like this. He's basically said, all right, we're not getting a caution. I've just got to go for it. I've got to go through
Here comes Grant and DeWeese as well. Same boat. They're coming down pit road for their final stop.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't think they can take 4. I think they've got to take 2. Grant's taken 4. DeWeese, they're both taken 4. So all 3 of those guys have taken 4. 17's on pit road as well. So Mayer, let's keep an eye on what he does.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Tristan Mayer is coming down because he actually was rolling the same kind of strategy that Boucher and Dyer were. I think he had come to pit road the lap after the 73 had, so I thought he might be a driver that would try and stretch it, but no, apparently he's coming down. And in terms of fresh tires as opposed to old tires, I mean, these drivers, they're losing a lot of time coming down pit road, but when they come back out, they could be gaining anywhere from 1.5 seconds to 3 seconds, depending on their pace.
Well, the reason to come down early is because you push, basically you say to Boucher, all right, you have to go for it now. You have to either drive the wheels off this thing, or you have to have saved so much fuel that it doesn't matter. And the gap between him and Dyer is only 3.5 seconds. So Dyer is closing, and closing like you wouldn't believe. Mike Tellier is only just over a lap down, Jacob Grant is 12 seconds back off those guys. He just gained 2 seconds on that lap, so he's down to 10 seconds. He's coming. I tell you what, I don't think the Boucher and Dyer had the pace and the fuel save to be able to win this thing. So it's back onto the guys who have made that extra stop now, I think. But they've got to go out there and they've got to drive the thing to the front and they've got to win it that way, which isn't an easy task.
Just saw Shane Tyrion and Tom Bourne, teammates on pit road, and then their teammate Mike Teller on pit road. Here comes the 33. He's coming to pit road now, and it's interesting that they're all pitting at this point because they're pitting with 20 laps to go. So technically they're going out there for this final stint on what would theoretically be 50% of a fuel run.
Yeah, so they've basically gotten to the point whereby they can add the fuel into the car to get to the end, right? And then going, right, we're coming down straight away. We're not going to risk it. We're not going to stay out. We're not going to let these tires continue to bleed off. They're basically trying to minimize the amount of time that they spend on halfway used tires, which is the smart call. You want to split that stint up. As soon as those tires are going to start going bad, get rid of them. Let's shelve them off. Let's put them in the back in the garage. Let's grab a new set. So strategy-wise, it's all over the place. Jacob Grant, where does he come out? I think Cybery's ahead. It's 5 seconds. It's less than 5 seconds. Cybery's going to come out right behind Dyer. Dyer's going to be dead in the water here. Dyer is not going to win this race.
There's the 33 coming off of turn 2. Jacob Grant just now exiting turn 2. He's going to have the momentum. I don't know if he's going to get to the back bumper of that 33 car or not. And right now, according to our ticker, it's 25 seconds from Brian Cybery up to the race leader of Alonso Chicano.
Robert Kenny's just come to the lane as well, so he's pit out of that top 4. Now it's just Dyer, Boucher, and Chicano. I tell you what, if anyone's going to make it to the end, it's going to be Dyer. Dyer would be the one that would be able to have saved enough fuel by now to start pushing and make that work. But these guys are on fresh tires, and they're only 4.5 seconds back. For my liking, that's way too close. Cybery comes out of these pits, comes out in the lead. He has the freshest tires of this bunch. There is no one from behind that's now going to challenge him. He is now just going to go out there and drive around absolutely everyone in front of him. I think Alonso Chicano, dead in the water as well. I think he's going to have to pit. Boucher is a big question mark. Dyer, good. Tick mark for me.
And in the case of Alonso Chicano, the thing that's working against him too is the number of laps that are left. If this was a strategy call with maybe 5 laps to go, yeah, I think he could manage a 20-second gap. But with 15 laps to go and knowing that fresh tires as opposed to old tires are going to gain you upwards of 2 seconds per lap, there's just no way that Alonso Chicano is going to be able to hold off that 33 of Cybery. What he has to hope for right now is the caution will come out, and maybe then he can come down, take on his final set of tires, and have the advantage on the rest of the field, because currently we've only got 10 drivers on the lead lap.
Yeah, and Chicano had to do something different, because if he ran the same strategy as everyone else, he was never going to win this race. He's given himself the best chance. There's not a lot of drivers left on that lead lap, remember, so he's not going to go too deep within the field if he comes down and grabs that pit, but he's also relying on something to happen. And I tell you what, these guys have actually put up, once they've gotten on that green flag run, it's been extended green flag running. Here goes Dyer, though. Dyer's going to go back down behind Cybery. That'll be his race win done, but I think we all sort of knew that when he got involved in the wreck.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap now has closed up 18 seconds behind Cybery and Chicano as he moves into the 3rd position. Still has 14 and a half laps to be able to work with. And here comes Chicano. He is now on pit road. So now it's going to be the teammates to settle it out here. Boucher in the 73. And, well, maybe no contest because there's the 33 right on his back bumper. And look at the difference of speed with the fresh Goodyears as opposed to the old ones.
Fresh Goodyears and fuel saving. So Boucher's going to try and attach himself to the rear bumper of the 33. Ain't going to happen. That rubber is so secondhand. So I've got a question mark. Well, Cyber answered the question. We said, how long can you go and win this race? Boucher couldn't. He just couldn't do it. It's too long. It's too much to ask. Cybery's driven, I think, just about the perfect final stint. Those stages, I mean, that second stage, he drove phenomenally. Fell back to 26, drove his way back through the field, got that second stage victory, came out of pit lane ahead, and this is what happens. You get to just put everyone else in your rear view mirror, and from here on to the end, even though he was having all of those little bobbles and mistakes right around Matt Dyer towards the back end of his last fuel run, he's managed to keep it out of the wall, and that's the important part.
looks like Alonso Chicano may have been the only driver that came down pit road and went with the 2-tire strategy on his final pit stop. He is going to return to the track still on the lead lap, holding down the 10th position. And we can't give the win to Cybery just yet. He's had a great car on long run pace, but right there in the same shot, about half a back straightaway behind him, is that 14 of Spencer Hardison. And the last couple of laps, as now looks like Chicano's coming back down pit road, might have actually sped on pit lane. That's a costly mistake, as this will drop him outside of the top 10. But Hardison has been running somewhat similar lap times to Cybery, so if he's able to find something here in these final 10 laps, we may have a battle on our hands yet for this checkered flag.
Look, I mean, Cybery might just be saying basically, look, I'm going to lead, it's about a second and a half. I need to just make sure that my fuel number is good, especially, do we run the green-white cautions here? I'm just going to have a quick look.
Yes, we do.
We do run green-white cautions, so for my liking, Cybery is saying now, okay, I'm out in the lead, I'm good. Let's make sure that if a green-white caution comes, we've got fuel in the tank. We're not just dead in the water. Could you imagine if green-white caution comes? Guess who'd be my pick? It'd be Boucher.
Yeah,
Boucher
absolutely.
would suddenly just leapfrog all the way up there. Chicano has taken some of that fresh rubber, so you can cross him out if a green-white caution happens. It's got to be Boucher that gets to the front.
Boucher was the winner of one of our stages here tonight. Right now, as things stand, he would possibly drop down to 8th if Shane Tyrion and Tom Bourne can reel him in, maybe to 9th, although Matt Dyer right now on the same tire strategy really as the 73, who just lost a top 5 to Justin Belmonte. As the gap right now, 2 seconds managed between Cybery and Hardison. And what a great start to the year here for Brian Cybery. We ended up talking about the fact that he was the pole sitter last week at Daytona. He was involved in a couple of early incidents, but was able to battle back to finish inside of the top 5, and now has had a very dominating performance ever since the start of the second stage. And right now, barring any problems, knock on wood, 7 laps away from capturing his first victory here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series.
Yeah, congratulations to him. What a race. He's done such a phenomenal job. He's joined the league, and he's really put a stamp out there, and his teammates as well. You said it. I think splitting the strategy, even though it hasn't worked out for Jeremy Boucher, it's worked out for his teammate. But those guys would have known that, and they're working together, and I don't think they have a problem with that. Look at the way that they drove at the back end of stage 2. Boucher let his teammate Cybery by to have a crack at Grant. Cybery got around him, and that opened it up for Boucher. So I can see that these guys will work together quite well, and they're going to be comfortable running that team game, and it's going to work for them.
Closest battle here in the closing stages may be between teammates for the 7th position. Shane Tyrion looks in his rearview mirror and sees the 54 of Tom Bourne. Tyrion a little bit higher of an arc, then drives it deep through the center of the corner. Tom Bourne a shallow entry, then lets it ride up. These two kind of testing the waters against each other to see who might be able to get that 7th finishing position. Another battle that is starting to close up a little bit as teammates again. This time it is the high 5 teammates of Jacob Grant and Braxton DeWeese, about 0.4 of a second between those two in a battle for 3rd.
Yeah, so in terms of when these guys come down pit road and took their last sets of tires, same lap, talked about it, they were teammates, they were pulling the team strategy, they go together, they see what they can make happen. Jacob Grant has had phenomenal short run pace all night. Well, he's burned all of that up, and all of a sudden Braxton is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger in that rear view mirror. But I tell you what a race from Spencer Hardison. He's driven phenomenally to put this car up in the 2nd place. Where was he at the end of the last stage? He was up there, but he didn't really, factor into big points finishes. I don't think if you could have asked us who would be a number 2 driver at the end of this one, I don't think any of us actually would have said Spencer Hardison. He hasn't had a flashy performance. He's had a super cool, super calm, a super consistent performance. He's done a great job to drive the car to where it is.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Spencer Hardison has not been without incident here today as well. Had some contact with another driver in the early stages of this race. Undoubtedly would have had some front-end damage to have to deal with, and it certainly has not seemed to affect his race car as he right now is en route to a 2nd place finish. We did have a couple of drivers just hit pit road, but they are lap machines topping off the fuel tank to be able to make it the rest of the way. And in the case of Jeremy Boucher and Matt Dyer back in 8th and 9th place, looks like they should be able to make it to the checkered flag on fuel. They are now concerned about Robert Kenny and Tristan Mayer, who are on fresher tires than they have. might drop them outside of the top 10, but it's going to be 2 laps to go for Brian Cybery, and he holds nearly a 3-second gap back to Spencer Hardison, and he could punch it from here. He knows he's got the car that's the best on the long run speed. So do you play it conservative here, make sure that you don't wreck this thing, or do you make sure that you open up that gap?
No, you play it conservative. You 100%. You've got things locked in. You're doing fine. I'm actually just having a look back through everything. Matt Dyer is now missing his front end. Not sure what's happened through there, but you know who else he's phenomenally doing a great job is, I think Boucher's out of fuel.
I think he is too. I think you're right. 73 slow going into turn 3. He's been out there for 43 laps on this run, and he is going to stay out, but you see that car wiggling back and forth, trying to make it around one more time, as off the final corner, his teammate's going to take the checkered flag. Ryan Cybery's going to win at Homestead.
Yeah, great job by Cybery. Phenomenal drive from him. He's pretty much led the entirety of this final stage, and he deserves to win. I mean, you know, we heard it from Boucher. He said that, look, I've got to put all of this sort of great driving down to my teammate. He's given me the setup. He's done some work on it. You know, he's allowed me to drive as well as I have. Actually, I think Dyer's out of fuel as well. He just gets there.
There's the 8 crossing the line, 73 coming around out of turn 4. Looks like Boucher is going to have enough to be able to complete 175 laps here. He will cross in the 11th position, and his teammate right behind him now gets to burn it down at Homestead.
Yeah, what a great drive from the SRD guys. You said it, mixing that strategy up, throwing a spanner in the works of everybody else, and they basically just controlled the field. They said, look, one of us is going to win it. I don't know who that one is going to be, whether it's going to be me on the fuel run or you, Brian, on that extra stop with all that extra pace. What a drive from Brian. Had to do it all in that last stint. He did it phenomenally.
And what a team effort here tonight as well for Sim Racing Development. You had Alex Link start on the pole position. You had both Cybery and Boucher win the 2 stages and then close it out. The cherry on top with Cybery going to victory lane, and he now joins Derek Schilling as a driver that is going to be locked into this season's playoffs.
Yep, now he gets the benefit of being able to have one of those off weeks like Schilling has had. So, look, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the benefit. Schilling can just sit around in the lobby. He can enjoy himself. He can just cruise around. You know, Cybery's focus now for me is definitely going to be getting Boucher up there and get him into the playoffs as well, because he's shown that he can do it. Boucher's got the pace. He can look after the car, and he can save enough fuel. Right? He's so close to saving enough fuel to be able to stay in that top 10 tonight, just barely misses out. We go to another track whereby that fuel run is a little bit closer to the end of the race, and I'd say Boucher might actually be able to do it. Don't cross him out yet just because of what he's done here tonight. He's done a phenomenal job to be able to get that tank of fuel in. He was the only one to not pit under any of the cautions in that final stage to make it home on one stop. That is a tremendous effort, and that has to be regarded as a truly phenomenal bit of fuel-saving driving.
And you have to wonder just how much information was taken away from this race that'll be applied next week, because obviously it's a little bit different of a configuration in terms of shape and in terms of the racing style, but another 1.5 miles next week, 175 laps, same amount of staged laps as far as the first, second, and third stages at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So a lot of information I think is going to be easily carried over from tonight's event into next week.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, Las Vegas, obviously, it's a little less multi-groove compared to Homestead from tonight, whereas multi-groove racing around here, you can run the high line, you can run the bottom line. You know, there's different ways to really look after your car. But for me, Texas just really has that extra level of difficulty, whereas Homestead, the car's going to wiggle around all the time. Texas, you've got to get the car stopped, you've got to get turned in, you've got to handle all those bumps. Not as bad here at Homestead, though. So, but look, I tell you what a race. We heading into that final stage, we said there's probably 6, 7, 8 guys who can actually win this race here tonight. Unfortunately, some of them ended up with damage. That happens. Matt Dyer still throwing the weird strategies out there, throwing the curveball strategies out there. Unlucky. I think if he doesn't get damage there, I think he's a top 3 contender. It's just unlucky for him. That is racing, and that's how it goes sometimes. But I always love a guy who's going to throw it out there and do something different.
Yeah, a number of drivers that had some damage finishing up there in the latter half of the top 10. Tom Bourne, Matt Dyer, Robert Kenny, also Tristan Mayer, who actually was a driver that had to rely on a lucky dog to get back on the lead lap. He's going to be able to snipe a top 10 finish here tonight. So great comeback stories for quite a number of drivers that were involved in the earlier wrecks back in the first two stages. Let's see if we can now get some of our top three finishers and their thoughts about tonight's event, and we're going to see if we can get our third place finisher, Jacob Grant. Hey, Jacob, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
Oh, good. Man, your car looked strong here tonight. We saw you up there inside of the top three pretty much the entirety of this race in all three stages. We saw you kind of play a little bit of strategy there, coming down pit road with about 20 laps to go. Looked like you were trying to short pit the rest of the other drivers. You think you might have been able to have something there for that 33 car?
No, I don't think anybody would have had anything for that 33. He was lightning fast. Whoever makes his setup, if he makes his setup, whatever speed shot makes his setup, good job. Kudos to those guys.
Still, a great run for you today overall, and we talked about the fact that we're heading to another 1.5-mile track next week at Las Vegas. So is there any kind of information you can glean from tonight's event to apply into next week?
Save your tire, save your equipment, stay out of trouble.
We also saw that you and your teammate came down pit road at the same time. We saw that teammates on the other team of Sim Racing Development actually kind of split their strategy. One driver tried to stretch it, the other one went with the same kind of strategy that you guys did. Anything that you guys might try doing in that same type of line when you get to these other fuel strategy type races?
More practice. We're gonna practice a bunch of different outcomes, see which one will be the best. 33 and the 14 both had some really good strategy and fast cars. So we had a really good fast car thanks to McConey's setup shop. They did fantastic with our setup. It felt amazing qualifying setup. But fortunately, we didn't qualify. I didn't make the qualifying. We had a league race before this one, so I was unable to qualify. But I made it to the race. So we started from the rear, came to the front. Yeah, just more practice. See what we can do.
Well, Jacob, it was great to see you finish well here tonight at Homestead after the hardships of Daytona last week. Anybody you'd like to thank or shout out? Any sponsors?
Yes. First off, I would like to thank Tight End Loose Off on YouTube. It's a really good YouTube channel. Everybody should go and check it out. It's Tight End Loose Off. It covers a wide variety of NASCAR stuff. He just did a thing about Brian Vickers, I believe, and a bunch of Epstein stuff. So he does some really cool, interesting stuff. Everybody should go check that out. I'd like to thank McConey Setup Shop for making me and Braxton set up tonight for High Five Racing. It was really, really fast. It felt really good in the long run. Made a few adjustments to it to my liking, but other than that, it was a really, really well built setup. It felt great. Everybody should go and check them out and get some setups from them. You won't be disappointed. I'd like to thank King Grant Paints for making my paint scheme, High Five Racing for allowing me to race in the number 18 Chevy this year for a Clutch Drop. I'd like to thank Clutch Drop for having me, you guys for broadcasting. You guys do an amazing job. I love watching you guys whenever I'm not racing for you guys. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's Jacob Grant, P3 here tonight at Homestead, Miami. Once again, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing this 1.5-mile program, the speed you guys have, carry over into Las Vegas next week.
Appreciate it.
And let's get our runner-up finisher, Spencer Hardison. Hey, Spencer, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, man.
Boy, we saw you racing hard all this event, and that car looked like it was on rails, especially there towards the end of this race. We saw that the gap was slowly starting to dwindle between yourself and that 33. If you'd had enough laps, did you have enough car to be able to get up to him?
I don't think so. I mean, I was going as hard as I could, and I was just able to kind of stick with him a little bit and not let the gap get too big. During that second stage, I got a little bit of right front damage that kind of changed the way that the car was kind of reacting a little bit. And so that kind of slowed me down a little bit, cost me a little bit of time based on what I probably could have been doing. But that 33 he was on another level. I'd love to know what he figured out, because I thought I had Homestead pretty well figured out, but man, he was fast. I don't think I could have got him.
I'll tell you what, Spencer, you managed to in the final sort of run of things finally get the measure and get by Jacob Grant. That was a close bit of racing from you guys. It was awesome to see. How much fun did you have out there with him?
Yeah, Jacob's a good friend, and so we've raced against each other a lot. Right when after that second stage caution, once we went back green there, I think we just had a little bit of different ideas about how to race Homestead, and so that first time, eventually we battled for a little bit, and I figured I'd just let him go for a little bit, and so then once we kind of got into that long stretch. I was able to get around him a couple of times after we kind of reshuffled from pitting. But I mean, that's what I love about Homestead. It's definitely my favorite track. Is once I can get in a long run like that, I feel like I can kind of click them away and really, lay down some fast laps later in the run, a little bit faster than other people can. So it was a good race. Would have loved to. I got that 33, like I said, but I feel like if we would have had maybe a short run, it could have happened. But at that point, we were on old tires, so I'm not 100% sure. But it was definitely a great race and definitely fun battling with Jacob there for a little while.
Yeah, Spencer, obviously we didn't see you at Daytona last week. But it definitely looks like you got a good mile-and-a-half program. So heading into Las Vegas next week, what's the confidence level?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Homestead's just a different track for me for whatever reason. I've been pretty good there a lot over the past few months, running in some different series. So honestly, I don't really know what Las Vegas is going to be like. Hopefully, we can put something together, put a good setup together, and get the car where we can do some things with it. But this is one of those series you never know week to week who's going to be fast. Those luminary guys tonight, I know they were mostly in the top 10. They're definitely going to be faster than they were tonight relative to where we were at. So it's all kind of a crapshoot week to week on if you hit on the right setup and can get things the right way in the race and have the right strategy. So we'll see what happens.
All right, well, Spencer, heck of a run for you here tonight. Congratulations on your second place run. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Yeah, man, like always, obviously Barstool Sports has no idea they sponsor my car, but I really appreciate all their support. And definitely thanks to the team and all. We work on these setups a lot during the week. And so we definitely thank those guys. They are a lot of fun to race with. And thanks to you guys for broadcasting it. So we appreciate it, guys.
That's Spencer Hardison, second place here tonight at Homestead, Miami. Congratulations there, Spencer, and we look forward to seeing if you can carry this momentum into the remainder of this regular season.
Thank you.
And down to victory lane we go. First win on the season for Brian Cybery. Hey, Brian, it's Scott and Seth up here again in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Well, man, we talked to you after your stage win, and you talked about how good this car was on the long run, and you showcased it there in this third and final stage, no doubt about it. The longer the run came on, the faster this car got, but we kind of were wondering about fuel strategy. We knew some drivers were going to try and stretch it, some drivers, they were going to come down pit road, but we didn't exactly know when. Did you have a number in your head, or was it drivers coming down pit road like the 18 and the 3 and the 14 that then drew you down to pit road as well?
Yeah, so when we took off, like we talked about, I didn't have the short run speed, so I got past, and again, just take my time, get back in front. And then my partner, Jeremy, started talking about, can we make it? I said, there's no way. You can get about 35 laps. And he's like, I think I can stretch it to 40. And I said, I don't know if you can do that. So that's where his strategy came in. He finished 10th, but yeah, I just kept watching, and the way they've got this set up with the fuel and the tires, I knew that you were going to take your last set, and then you were going to have to figure out how many laps you had left to run. And so I was saving fuel in the first stint to start the third stage, and trying to shorten the back end, right? So I got it down to about 18 laps to go, and that's kind of when I wanted to pit. That way, if a caution came out, you take another 3 laps off, my tires only have like 15 laps, and they'd still be pretty good shape.
And what a run! I mean, that entire last green flag run there, it wasn't all the way that you really wanted to, but look, sometimes you got to take a few cautions, get all the bugs out. Everyone clearly wanted to go racing, but then you just sort of settled in, and it kept happening for you. You mentioned you let a few of those guys go, and you're just able to look after your tires better. And was it a plan for Jeremy to go on the opposite strategy? Was that ever a plan that he was going to try and make it home on one stop? Were you ever thinking that you were going to try and make it home on one stop?
Yeah, so he kind of pitched that to me after we were about, I think there was a quick caution, like 10 laps in, and he started talking about it. And I said, man, you just lose so much time here on old tires. And I said, if you're going to go that strategy, it's got to work perfect, because if anybody comes in and pit, they're knocking off 2.5 seconds a lap on you. So I said, hey, if you want to try, go ahead. And he had me thinking, but I was, again, just running the calculator. I said, there's no way I can make it. So at best, I can shorten the back end and save tires. So I was clutching there for a while. And when you go into the corners here and you clutch, you really don't lose a whole lot of speed. So I was able to save some fuel. And like I said, that way, if a caution came out late, I wasn't completely burned up underneath the car.
You know, Brian, we're only 2 races in, but it's been a great 2 races for you. You started on pole last week at Daytona. You followed it up with a 4th place finish. Here today, you had a great qualifying effort and you pick up the victory. But how does this pale in comparison to now knowing that you're heading into Las Vegas next week and the remaining of the regular season races, knowing that you're locked in for the championship this early on?
Yeah, I get an opportunity to race quite a bit when the snow flies or it's spring and fall. But summertime, I get busy, so I got to do what I can do now and set my pace and get some points. And that way I can be around if something comes up and I have to travel and miss a race. But being into Sunday night, hopefully I should be back in town every weekend and be able to participate and have fun. I've enjoyed the league. It's been fun. Last week I really lucked out in a top 5. I think I was in the middle of the back straightaway when the 5 cars got together. So when I came out of 4, I was just trying to pick a spot to get through, and I couldn't believe when I came home 4th. But yeah, it's been a great start. It's been a little luck here and there. I mean, even tonight I almost dumped it out of 4. Car got loose. I put too much throttle to it, and I almost kissed the inside wall. So luckily I didn't do that and throw a nice lead away and a win away.
Well, congratulations, Brian, on the victory here at Homestead. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, SRD Setups, they're just releasing their website this week, and they're going to start pushing out some quality setups, and going to have some tutorials and notes that go along with them. So if anyone's looking to jump into the open side of things and aren't used to working on cars, that's a good start. And North Force Racing, which is who I'm teamed with, everybody does a good job over there of hooking us up every week, getting the cars ready. And yeah, they make fast stuff, ready to race.
That's Brian Sybry. He's your winner here tonight at Homestead Miami Speedway, picking up the victory here in Southern Florida. Congratulations, Brian, on the victory, and we look forward to seeing if maybe you can go 2 for 2 at mile and a halfs next week at Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas, man, you roll the dice there. That's going to be some close racing, and yeah, it's always a lot of fun. It's almost a shorter version of Daytona. You get all over each other, and yeah, close pack racing. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, best of luck there, Brian. Congrats.
Thank you.
And so now as this race comes to a close at Homestead, I asked the question before we even talked with the drivers about possible data that they could take away from Homestead into Las Vegas. Based off of what we just heard there with Sybry as well as Jacob Grant earlier, I think the answer is a resounding no.
Oh, look, there'll be some things that they'll definitely take away and that they'll add in. But yeah, no, it's a completely different racetrack according to them. You got to start again. You got to get that set up right from the get-go. You got to dial yourself in. You got to find those little tweaks that you have to make as a driver, and you've got to make to the car, and then you got to settle in and you go racing next week. It's a brand new race. Come out of the blocks hard. We've seen a few different things tonight. We've seen that Terrian couldn't really look after his car. He drifted a long, long way back. Still managed to grab a top 6. Yeah, that's okay, but I would expect better from the Luminary guys. What are we looking for next week? Well, does SRD come straight back up to the front? There's so much going on. This league has got so much excitement around it, and the level of driving is so close, and the type of driving and the racing is just awesome. I tell you what, next week, I may not necessarily be in the commentary booth. I can tell you, I'm going to be sitting down there in the chat watching. I'm going to have a bucket of popcorn and I'm going to be ready to go.
Yeah, and I think as well, we're also seeing that things are rather, at least here in the first two races, rather evenly matched. I mean, last year, Luminary was up there at the front quite a bit in those races. I think a lot of teams have really stepped up and brought the competition to them. NSM has had some good runs so far. You have, of course, the Sim Racing Development team. And I would even throw in CEM with Spencer Hardison finishing second, Matt Dyer finishing in eighth, and High Five Racing had both of their drivers finish up inside the top five. So I think that the level of competition is definitely picking up, and we're starting to see, even team-wise, a lot of different organizations being on the same level of each other in terms of competition and the type of setups that they bring in terms of speed. And so at a track that we just were told is like a little Daytona where they're going to be up each other's gearboxes, it may be a very close battle all the way through the field.
Heck, who knows? We might even see some another wreck on the final lap and everyone else just looking for a way to get by and get back to that finish line.
Absolutely. Well, it should be a good one as we now finish out tonight's race here at Homestead with Brian Sibery, sitting in victory lane in that number 33 machine. A great one here tonight, and we'll gear it up for another 1.5 mile track with 175 laps on tap next week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway here for the Clutch Drop Cup Series. That'll be green flag next Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Scott, I know you want to be a spectator next week, but I appreciate you being in the booth with me here tonight for this one.
Oh, look, I mean, absolute blast tonight. I'd rather be up here in the booth, but I tell you what, I'm still sticking around because there's going to be some great racing action to come.
Certainly will be. Thanks to everybody that tuned in here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage of the Clutch Drop Cup Series race number 2. We'll see you guys next week. For Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed